On the outside, the wound had healed, but on the inside, the stitches, they were still nowhere there. Anyway, 3 months, I was probably out with that. And I made my debut, ironically, at Hibs away. Martin O'Neill was the manager, and got to the stage in the second half where I think we were winning the game, and Martin's put me on. And the whole of the ground stood up and gave me a standing ovation. And it was like, God almighty, keep yourself together. One of them type of moments, a lump in my throat. Come on. And it couldn't have gone any better. I scored in the game. And it was just like, wow, from compared to where I thought at one point I was never going to kick a ball again. And then 3 months down the line, you're back doing what you've always obviously dreamt of. And, it was surreal.
On today's episode of Inside the Game, I am joined by a former professional footballer and manager who explains his journey to the top and also explains how he overcame cancer twice during his playing career. I'm joined by Alan Stubbs. Alan, welcome.
Pleasure.
How far back do we go for you to have your first memory of playing football?
Oh, God. My first memory was in terms of, I don't remember the team who we played, but mine would have been, first game at Goodison would have been Gladys Street, on the crates at the bottom, on the wall, on top of one of them, and watching the game. That was that's my first memory as going to an Everton game and becoming a fan.
That catchy imagination.
It did. I think all my family were Blues anyway, so there was only really one colour. And then as I started then to play as a young lad, I was, believe it or not, I was a striker when I was young, 8, 9. I was scoring goals, leading goal scorers for my team, which was Pingwood FC. We had a boss little team.
Yeah.
And then I got picked up by Everton around about 10 years old. And I was there till, I think, around about 13. And the same as what every kid in the academy is going through now at that age. You get to a stage where you have to make a decision. The choice was me or someone else. And they went with the other lad. And then you think your wheels fell apart. And I remember walking away that day when I'd seen the head of the academy at the time was a guy called Ray Minchell. And like your dad's, he's trying to console you. It's okay, something will happen. But it's as if like that's the end.
Yeah.
The dream's over. Knock on the door a week later. And it was actually, believe it or not, Neil Dewsnip's dad.
Was it? Yeah.
He was a scout for Bolton, and he asked me would I be interested in coming. We were like, Bolton, how are we going to get there? Because my dad didn't drive. And then don't worry, we'll organise transport. We have a few lads from Liverpool, so like Jed Brannan, who was one. Another lad,
Tramiad, doesn't he?
Yeah. And we had another lad called Vinny. Oh, his name, local lad. He played in a few local teams, really good player.
Yeah.
So we had 3 or 4 of us travelling from Iton in a minibus that Bolton laid on. That's how my first memories came about.
What was it like going to Bolton? Because obviously you've been at Everton, it's your club, and then you've had that hammer blow because it is, isn't it? You go there and dream of playing, don't you, and all that. You go to Bolton, obviously facilities a bit different because at the time Belfield was great, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
There
was like realistically like that in the 80s was state of the art.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And then you leave there, you go into a new surrounding, as you can imagine, completely different. Finances completely different. We were at the old Burnden Park then, and there was behind the stadium, right next to the, I think it was the little expressway. I don't know whether it's the A605. I can't remember what it is now. They had a little AstroTurf pitch there, like a cage. It wasn't very big, and that's where we trained. So you go from this big full size space to this little small space, and obviously the standard was less, as you'd imagine. You're going from Everton, to Bolton, and I started to do okay. And
where were you playing at this stage?
So,
like, were you still a striker?
So I'd moved from striker. Then I started to play out wide on the left wing. Still playing locally for Kirby Boys, which was great. And then I started that slippery slope. So I went from striker to left wing to centre midfield, playing there at that age, and then centre back just came by mistake. I was still pretty small up to probably 12, and I started to have my growth spurt then. By the time I got to 15, 16, I was probably 5'11", 6 foot then, and we had a few injuries at Bolton, and I was starting to progress, and I was starting to do better, and I was starting to probably be at the head of the group, in terms of that, and got injuries, and then Phil Neal at the time was, and he said, "Right, will you play centre off? Think you can play there? Never played there before."
Yeah,
and then they threw me in, and I'd done okay, and then from like 16, started to obviously play more, starting to go in between the reserves and the 18s, and so you're dipping in the boat the way you do, and made my debut when I was 18 for Bolton, and it seemed to, I had my first manager was Phil Neal. Obviously, I'll always be thankful he gave me my debut and give me the opportunity, and he wasn't there a long time. I didn't have a long time with him, and it was really when Bruce came in, Rioch, that my career started to really take an upward curve. He was brilliant with me, Bruce. He was ruthless as a manager. Ruthless with some of the players there, but he took me under his wing, and not long after that, Jason McAteer signed for Marine. So we were looking back now, we were like Bruce's golden shells. We're the ones that he obviously seen. These could be the ones that really improved the team, and he really took us under his wing and looked after us, and he was great. He was a real father figure he was to us when we were young. We couldn't do anything wrong amongst all the other players. He really protective of us. And then that's where it all started to really evolve. In terms of my professional career.
If it take you back though, getting the contract, but I suppose scholars now, isn't it? But getting a YTS, it would have been in our day, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Were you? The way some lads are basically slated for. Some lads are, he's all right. Were you one of them, or was it still a nerve-wracking time for you? Because you're coming up to that time and you have to tell you. Yeah. Was it the saying you sit in the dressing room and you get called up, or was it a bit? No, was it? It
was still the same. You obviously you get an idea where you're sitting. Yeah. And obviously the lads were saying, "Oh, you're all right. You're definitely getting one." And I'm like, you just don't know. Don't be stupid type of thing. But until actually you've been said, right, this is what's happening. You're never 100% sure. No. And I remember looking back, and it's a horrible time, because you've got two emotions. You've got the joy, and you've got the lads who are gutted because they've put everything in, whether it's the last 2 years, whether the last 6 years, and the mates at the end of the day. Even though you put your own personal euphoria and excitement, to one side, because straight away you think about your mates who've not been given that decision, and you're travelling in with them is changed because they're not going to be there with you, And I remember obviously my first contact was old YTS 29.50, and I'm thinking, 29.50, how can I live on that? So we used to get the train up. So we were Kirby to Wigan, and then from Wigan to Bolton. So we were there, and we used to obviously put our expenses in, and the amount of time that myself and a couple of lads spent in the toilet from Kirby to Bolton, winging it, so obviously we didn't have to buy a ticket to try and get our wages up, so that we'd save that end.
Yeah.
And that was my early part of YTS. I used to get about £74 expenses. Of that, probably only used about 24.
Budgeting, good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's it's
by buck or by crook.
Yeah,
fair play.
And then
so you weren't given a house and you weren't given a car.
I wasn't.
Like happens
the family wasn't moved either. Given a house, it wasn't anything like that.
No.
But I loved it.
Yeah.
It was.
What was it like going in every day?
It was great. It was tough at times as well. We were obviously what you would expect, very old school then.
Yeah.
So you had to knock on the first team door before you walked in. We were still getting changed at the ground. So if any of the YTSs walked into the first team changing room without knocking, they'd get their arses kicked. So we'd have to we'd be standing on a table where you'd be down to your briefs, and you'd have a brush, and you'd have to sing a song as you forfeit.
Oh no.
So you were up on the table, and if you weren't great, you were getting all kinds thrown at you, whether it was wet socks, tea bags, boot polish put on you, deep heat. So it was like. And
you made sure you knocked.
Oh yeah. I only never knocked once. Yeah. But then you'd obviously have your other jobs, and this is where I don't agree with it in terms of nowadays, because it has moved on. But I think the biggest thing that we ever changed, which was wrong, was cleaning boots. I loved cleaning a pro's boots. I got a sense of real satisfaction from it, that if my player on a Saturday scored or had a good game, I knew I was getting a little dropsy. Make sure they're clean next week. Whether it was a £5, a £10, didn't make any difference. We would always remember the old big baths. We'd have to be in there with the old the white cream, like Jif, where you'd have to be scrubbing the tiles, making sure all the grouting was all white. If that was dirty on a Monday morning, we'd get our arses kicked again. So it was, and for me that was. I don't agree with it now. We've come a long way. We've moved on since then. But in terms of character building and learning respect, it didn't do me any harm.
I was going to say, because obviously it has changed so much, and I don't agree with all this. The kids have got their initials on the training gear when they're 9 and 10, and I think it's nonsense, to be fair. I think you set it up. You're setting them up you're making it as if they've already made it. And 10, 11, 12, whatever it is. Yeah. But I agree with you. I cleaned at Everton, cleaned the boots at Everton, brushed at Burnley. We had to brush the bleeding the stadium turf more on a Monday, if they played. But I think it's that, to me. I know it has moved on and you have to do certain things, but you're right, they still should be given to you. I think so, because I think it keeps you grounded. Yeah. And obviously, you're in a great place to judge this, because you've obviously later on you became the academy manager and everything, didn't you? But surely they should be given some tasks, because
I
there's
agree.
Even a measuring stick then, though, isn't there? Of like, I was cleaning boots, now someone's cleaning my boot, that kind of thing. Yeah.
I think the boots one is really good. I don't agree with in terms of obviously the cleaning things.
Yeah.
There has got to be a boundary somewhere, but as I say, I love that, and I totally agree with you. Even like, I know at Everton, they bus young kids on the first team bus to sign forms. That's got to be earned. Yeah. That's too much too early. And you wonder why maybe some of these young lads, when they're older, and you see them with the wash bags when they're 15, initials on things. These are certain things that, you're not a player, as far as I'm concerned, until you have made 10 or 15 games in the first team. And then you start to, earn that right. Yeah. And I don't want to sound old school, because I'm not, there's got to be a sense of earning things. I think right now, in terms of young players, even academy players, you're given things too early, you know, and we wonder why then we see players with attitudes, you know. There's little small things whereas, you know, we've got to be better. We've got to, you know, when they're at Everton, you know, we should be a model of this is what we are. You know, it's got to be that journey to the first team has not got to be easy. There's got to be things along the way where, you know, whether it's attitude, okay, we've got to be stronger. If someone's got an attitude, right, okay, then you don't play. You know, whereas a lot of it now is we've got to be careful. HR, got to be this. You know, and I agree. You know, if I was Bruce Rioch now, Bruce or anybody from that age, even Alex Ferguson, when you look at them now, they couldn't get away with what they probably said then. No. You know, do you think that Ryan Giggs would be any different now, or any of them other players in terms of this management now? Yeah. Because they probably needed the kick up the backside at times. When you hear of all these stories, what go on, you know, and even like speaking to Wayne and all about the way. I remember one story. It was like I was doing my pro license at United, and we were lucky enough to have Alex Ferguson speak at Carrington. In fact, it was United's new training ground, and we've gone in, and he was different class. He was brilliant, as you'd expect. You know, a manager speaking in front of a camera, in terms of a manager speaking in front of fellow professionals who are on their potential management, are two completely conversations. He opens up more, you know, and he opened up and he was saying about dealing with players, and he was fantastic, really, really good. And we'd finished, and it was all around when Wayne was linked with getting a move away and stuff like that. And Fergie pulled me at the very end of it and said, Stubbs, you can have a quiet word. So I said, yeah. I said, no problem. I'm thinking, what on earth is this conversation? What's this going on? He went, Rooney. He said, the real deal? And I said, he's going to be a top player. There's no doubt about that. He said, you know, and he was quizzing then. You know, that was 2 years before he left. You know, this is the type of, you know, guy that you're dealing with, and so, you know, it's very different now, and I understand times change, you know, but I think too many things are given to young players too early now. You know, they're not earned; they're given.
No, I agree, and I think we see that. You see with some of the attitudes, not that they're not good lads, but if you are given, if the path's easy, then when you are tested, that's why some of them do fall away. I think with like the era you're talking about, there was a lot. I mean, if you've watched the David Beckham documentary on Netflix, and he talks about Alex Ferguson and all the stuff they had to do and everything, and getting boots kicked at him and everything. You wouldn't be able to do that now to be up. I'm not saying you should be able to throw boots at players.
No, definitely not.
But I just mean, that era was totally different.
I think and I had this in the academy, is that I don't think academies do enough for young players now in terms of after.
No.
You know, the drop off is too much as well. You know, so when they are in academies or when they are scholars, that's in that 16 to 18 group, when they're released, they're just set out to the wild. You know, whereas, you know, they do, whether it's still the same, you know, they do a BTEC in sport when they go to college. You know, which realistically gives them nothing at the end. And because, you know, a lot of them are not going to go into that.
No.
You know, whereas I was always saying, you know, if they're not good enough for Everton, doesn't mean they're not good enough for somewhere else.
No.
But what can they walk out of here with? You know, whether it's a trade, whether it's anything like that. Because realistically, if they leave a Premier League club, where are they going to get the money that they're on in a normal job? They're not.
No.
You know, and then And then you look at the stats then compared to what they go into, and it's crime, drugs, because they can't. Their lifestyle is not sustainable.
No.
And that's what I think clubs can do more. They should do more, because the drop off for them is so severe.
Do you think? I don't know whether this would be allowed, but do you think there should be a mechanism where, if you are like a really good academy player, say, and the club's going, God, we think he might do well, we have to give him more money because these are tapping him up down the road. Yeah. It's getting the agreements, I guess, but in terms of like their future, I don't know what academy players are on, but say you had a top one and he's on £1,000 a week, say, which is when you walk into a normal job, mate, and have a look at cheap. Well, it's a cheap one, but go and do a normal job, mate, and then come back on 100 quid a week, whatever, at that age. But the club say, no, listen, we're giving you £5,000 a week, but we're only giving you £1,000 a week, and £4,000 going into, I don't know, a savings account. You're getting it, you're getting the money, that's the contract you've signed, but we're only actually allocating you that amount of money to spend. You think something like that? I don't know how it'd work. No. But that to me would give them, at least it give them a little bit of security. So I get released a year later. Yeah. I've been getting £1,000 a week, but really I've been getting £5,000 a week, and that's there for me. Yeah. But you're absolutely right. If I'm on £10,000 a week and the next minute I'm on my arse, and lower league clubs are going, can't afford you, mate. Well, I'm not sure anyway. Yeah. What do I do? How do I get back to this lifestyle that I've been living? It's so difficult.
It is difficult. And I totally agree that there should be a way in terms of if there is £5,000 a week, just say for instance the ballpark figure. In fact, let's not talk about five. Let's just lower it down if it's £1,000.
Yeah.
That just say for instance, £250 of that is getting offset into something else.
Something else.
And I do think whether it's happening now, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
If it isn't, then I think it is definitely a help for that to happen. Because otherwise we're just creating a situation where they're never going to realistically get back to them levels.
No.
So because
how do you?
The drop off from a Premier League academy player to maybe then going and playing in League One, first of all, they're going to walk into it and go, what the hell is this? Yeah. Because realistically, they're pampered, because they're playing on, the players are playing on, just say for instance, I'm looking now at the pitch on the wall, it's Goodison Park, which is like a carpet, but suddenly football becomes real in League One and League Two. And believe me, the pitches are not carpets.
No.
The training facilities are not Premier League standard. Your changing rooms are not Premier League standard. Some of these clubs, the players are still taking the kit home and washing it, and you're coming from a Premier League club where you throw your kit in a basket in the floor and everything's done, and the next day it's wrapped up and it's folded and it's in your place ready to train. That ain't happening. That's not real. So therefore, can we prepare them? Because we know way in advance which player's not going to make it.
Yeah.
You've got 2 years with them for 16 where they sign a scholarship, and when they get to that time when they were going to be offered a pro contract, even if you offer them a 2-year contract as a pro, you still know whether he's good enough to play in the first team.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. If you don't, then, for me, you shouldn't be in your job.
Yeah.
Players can change and things can happen differently where you go, I didn't see him doing that. But
they're few and far.
Yeah, they are few and far between. You know exactly where a player's going to end up. And it's like in Everton's, what's more beneficial for the player? Is it playing in Everton's under 21s or getting them out on loan? It shouldn't even be a conversation.
No, it's not.
Because they've got to go out and see what the big bad world's like. They've got to go and fight.
Yeah.
They've got to go and lay him on a slight. They've got to go and get an elbow in the head. They've got to go and get a tackle from behind to see how they respond. Whereas under 20 football, under 21 football it's like non-contact. Nothing happens.
It's nice.
It's lovely. It's lovely. Lovely pitches, lovely stadiums. But we are in an age where it's not real. We've got to get a real, and this is the thing that the Premier League have always struggled when they've spoke about it. How can we make it more competitive? You can't.
No. Do you think this is going back to you? Because we'll come back onto Bolton, and I'm quite sure you're going to tell me.
Yeah.
You played reserve team football, and reserve team football was playing against pros who weren't in the first team. Either coming back from injury or just needed some minutes. And obviously lads striving to get in the first team, so there was that element of...
You've cued perfectly on this, and you didn't know.
No.
One of my first experiences of playing against a first team player was playing at Belfield against Sharpie.
Right.
Sharpie was coming back, and from an injury, and obviously I'm walking back and I'm starstruck walking onto the pitch. I'm starstruck, and let's be honest, shit myself because I'm playing against Graham Sharp.
Yeah,
and
he was quite handy.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. He was just a bit better than that. And I played that game, and I learnt more in that 90 minutes than I would have probably learnt the whole of that season.
Yeah.
Just because of
your own age.
Someone is hang time, which we all obviously knew about Sharpie in terms of in the air. But it made me think, how do I try and counteract that? Because I could jump, but his timing of his jump, where he was affecting me in my timing.
Yeah.
And there's all these little things that I learned because I played against one great player. And that was the old reserve team league.
Did he give you the crack? Because he was quite he was tough one. Sharpie.
But
Scottish.
because of Sharpie, even in terms of his hang, he would always hang with his arm. Yeah. So there's always a good chance that you were going to make contact and get a whack. But
be off for that now.
Exactly. Well, exactly. You would. And that's where the game's changed. But in terms of a learning experience for me, with that, where do these players now get that? That was invaluable to me.
Yeah.
That's the fact that it was that important. I still speak about it to this day.
Yeah.
As in, you've just brought it up now straight away, and it was like little things like that. And if it wasn't Graham Sharp, it was someone else the following week. It was someone else the following week after that.
Yeah.
So for me, that was basically me on that learning pathway against someone who'd already been and done it. So that was a real test for me. Whereas, don't get me wrong, there's some talented players playing in the under-21 league, and will stick out like a sore thumb. But in terms of it being a test, the in the 21 league, you'll get time on the ball. League 1 and League 2, you don't get time on the ball. It's about getting on second balls. It's about work rate. It's about putting a shift in when you've got the ball. When you haven't got the ball, your job you've got to do for the team.
Yeah.
A manager's job's on the line. If you're not prepared to do what he's telling you, you're not playing. These are the things that, whereas you're losing the under 21s, oh well, we've got Liverpool next week. Oh well, we get beat. Okay, we've got Man United next week. Doesn't make any difference. So from a learning point of view, what exactly are they learning? And that's the bit where they've never got it right.
And you see that, don't you? When you see players go out on loan, you go, he's at Everton, or he's at Manchester United or Liverpool or whatever. Or they should go and tear it up there. Yeah. And you're looking one or two the thing. Like at Everton, for argument's sake, Anthony Gordon went to Preston. You're like, he'll do all right there. Didn't get in there. He was sub most weeks. Exactly, you're like, hang on, how? Because they haven't got that. That's the experience they've got is non-contact football.
You've got to earn your starting place in them teams. Whereas, I know that they're earning it realistically in the 21s because they're ahead of someone.
Yeah.
But you're in amongst a group of players there
as well.
And the men,
men's game,
you've got fans who are really close to you, screaming at you, and you're thinking, "Oh, how do you deal with it?"
Yeah.
So this is this is what they don't have, in terms of, how many times, and it's still the same to this day. How many times does a player go out on loan, and it's the making of them, or not?
Well, that's it. Yeah.
It's sink or swim.
Don't we?
Yeah. It's like I remember for one Ozzy. When he went out to Carlisle, then he went to Derby. And realistically, he was probably wasn't getting a contract. Before he went out. He's gone out and he's done really well at Carlisle, and then he's come back and he's gone to Derby, done really well, and then potentially he was getting signed, I think, by Derby, and it was only then where he's done really well. David Moyes thought, ooh, bring him back, come back, and that's when he started to get,
the kick on.
Would David Moyes have known that in the 21s? Not at all.
No.
Not at all. No. So this is how important it is. And for me, for the 21s, if you were at Everton under 21 manager, them players have got to get out.
Yeah.
They've got to get out.
Yeah.
Irrespective of your results in the 21s league, what's more important? Them going out and trying to earn a living, or them going out and you get the bounce back of that, whereas someone might buy them. Because that's ultimately what they're for. If they're not good enough for Everton's first team, they've got to have a value.
Absolutely.
You've got to get it back from somehow, whereas I'm not sure whether that is exactly the case.
No, it's definitely changed. So for you, who was your debut against them? Remember it?
I don't.
You don't?
I think it was, and I might be wrong, it was a Charlton away.
The Valley.
It was. And obviously,
you're still in midfield, or you're centre back now?
Centre back now,
yeah.
Centre back now. And the same, proud. It's as if like what you've worked towards for the last, since you were 16, or even younger, has come to fruition. You are realistically now a professional footballer.
Yeah.
And that means an awful lot. Now looking back, looking at your debut, starting, and then you're progressing with them players. And it wasn't probably until a year or two where at Bolton we had a decent team, and then we started to get in a bit of publicity from our cup runs, more than anything. Obviously one of them was at Goodison, which was real mixed emotions for me. Going to Highbury against a really good Arsenal team, getting results there, then getting beat by Oldham. I think we beat all the big teams, and then we played Oldham, I think, it was either the quarterfinals or the semi-finals of the FA Cup, whereas we were expected to win, and then they beat us, and that was where it all started to happen for me. Playing in the lower divisions, it was the old Division 1, 2, 3 and 4 then. Yeah. Getting promotions with Bolton. Bolton was a brilliant club. It was a really small, well-run club. A few people in the office, that you got to know, and you got to have a real relationship with guy who was only just retired there was always there, Simon, Gene, you go through them all, whereas on a Friday, if you would spend some of your wages, Gene, any chance of a dropsy this week, and I'll pay you back next week, that type of feel to it. Brilliant. Loved my time at Bolton, really did. I really enjoyed my time. Give me a brilliant platform, to go on.
And was it Bruce Rioch really?
It was Bruce.
On,
yeah. The bit where I thought, and really what come to me leaving Bolton, was that we got promoted. Then we were a bit yo-yo, got promoted, went back down, come back up again, and I just felt as if, and I understand, from where the directors and the chairman were, and I got on really well with them. Phil Garside was a lovely fella, and I just felt as if, because I was getting a lot of attention and it was getting talked about, getting a move, I wanted the club to show a bit of ambition to see whether we could bring in better players to try and keep us in the division. Yeah. And whereas the mindset was, okay, we'll try and do that, but really don't want to spend, so it wasn't really a push. Yeah. And I get it. It's a scary thing when you're coming up. You're suddenly in a big league and there is more money, but you put all these players on bigger contracts and then you go straight back down and then you're having to pay the price for it. So I get that, but I felt it was a chance for us to really, make a foothold and really kick on as a club. And we just didn't really do that. And that's when I thought, I've got to make a decision here. And and that's when I said to the club, well, listen, I think it's in the best interest that, it's time for me to move on. And it got it. I thought we were going. I'd said that after on Match of the Day one night that, it looked like we were going to go the following week.
Yeah.
Myself and Jason were going to Blackburn. We'd agreed a fee, £7 million fee for the both of us, a double transfer. But Blackburn, it was when they just won the league, and they'd said it's a £7 million deal, but we're the only club that can speak to them. So Bolton agreed that. We went and met Kenny Dalglish at the Haydock Thistle, agreed personal terms, and then literally we'd come out of the meeting, and Jason got a phone call from Bolton saying that they'd agreed a fee with Liverpool for him. They had to tell him because obviously he was a big Liverpool fan. Yeah. And Jason's like, listen, what do I do? I don't want to let you down. So as soon as Blackburn knew about that, they were pulling out.
The deal was off.
And Jason's like, I don't want to leave you in limbo. I said, listen, do what you've got to do. If it was Everton with me, I'd be going the same. I said, so just do it. Mine will happen sooner or later. It's going to happen. I am going to go. So just go. And anyway, Jason went and signed. And obviously after me saying that we were going, I've had to come back and face a little bit of the heat. Basically it was.
But before you talk about leaving, let's just, because you did establish yourself brilliantly at Bolton. You had that, I remember that night at Goodison. Mike Walker's, he come in at Burnden Park, didn't he? Ride out, score, he drew 1-1 there, and then Stuart Barlow.
It was,
got 2 goals that night, got in. We were playing great that night. Everton were playing great that night, and he got injured, scored in the second goal, didn't he? And then,
he did,
he got back in. Still, I watched the highlights again before, just to and I could remember your goal, but I wanted to just have it clear, but still think Nev should have saved the first one, and he dropped the second one. And you celebrated on fuming. Richarlison the other week didn't know when he joked. Of course, you've got to celebrate. But you scored the equaliser, didn't you?
I did.
And then was it Owen Coyle got the winner?
Coyle got the winner, And, I had...
And you did have a good side.
We did.
When you look at it.
We did
John
on our
McGinley.
Day. Yeah, John McGinley. There was obviously myself, Jason, John McGinley, Owen Coyle, Andy Walker.
Andy Walker, the other
David Lee, who was rapid.
Right winger.
Wasn't always obviously in terms of his final ball. But pace to burn, and he caused defenders so much trouble. So we had a good team.
That was 94, wasn't it? You beat us, and then 95 you got to the League Cup final.
Yeah, we did.
I still haven't forgive you for losing to that.
I know. It wasn't. It was Liverpool went into an early lead, and we clawed one back, and we were pushing. To be fair, we gave them a bit of a fright, but we'd overachieved. That year by a lot. But it was a platform for us because it made the other teams sit up and think, well, look, they've done it against the Premier League teams, or the top teams, and that's where really we were starting to get noticed more. And
even you get up in a playoff when you were 2-0 down and won 4-3. Is that right?
It was Reading.
Which again is another.
We were down and out
again.
We were down and out at half time. We didn't play well. Reading were by far the better team in the first half, and Bruce made a substitution. We managed to score early, which was a big help to us. And then, we got ourselves back into the game and we won it. It was,
Did you have that feeling that, players get that feeling, don't
we?
We
knew
once you got the goal,
we got the first, the momentum just completely shifted. And it gave the fans, we got lifted by Bolton fans who were there in the day. It was an amazing day for us in terms of how it all panned out. I think there's always something a little bit more special when you're down and out, and then suddenly you come back and it's like an historic win. And it's still always spoke about, to this day now about the way we came back. So it was great, playing at Wembley, such a young age, the old Wembley, which was special.
And all that,
walking out from behind the goals and that walk with the teams, you know, especially captaining the team as well, you know, was great memories for me, you know, really
the nets
special.
that went back about 20 foot.
Yeah. You know, it was, you know, Wembley will and always will be special. You know,
it was just
whether
more
it's a fan,
special though, wasn't it?
It was class. It was class. It was just, you know, everything about it.
Yeah.
And listen, the new Wembley is awesome.
Oh yeah.
But it's not the old
It's
Wembley.
not the grandeur of the old one.
No, it's not.
You were talking Bruce Lee up there now, how much of an influence he had on your career, but Arsenal come for him and he wanted to take you to Arsenal, didn't he? So
he did.
So Blackburn's fallen through.
Yeah.
So what, like, where are we now then?
Well,
you've had to go back and go, oh yeah, I'm back.
Yeah. So and I finished the season, and then come the end of the season, I was with Colin Todd, and Toddy took over. He had a difficult job because obviously he took over from Bruce. Bruce had done really well, and then he knew that I wanted to leave, and I'd had a conversation with the chairman saying, listen, we know what's going to happen, and he said, listen, if we get the right offer, I will not stand in your way. Yeah, he was great that way. You know, I had a lot of time for him, and we had a mutual agreement in terms of, you know, if it was the right time, and he would, and fair play to him. Celtic came in. Tommy Burns put the offer in, and it was literally a week, maybe 10 days after the season's finished. So we'd done it really early. Yeah, he wanted to get it done, and I was going to be Celtic's record signing at that time. Bruce rang me on the way to Glasgow. He says, where are you? I said, we're about an hour away outside of Glasgow. He went, don't do nothing. He said, I want to sign you. He said, fees all agreed. Wages obviously won't be a problem. He said, just give me a bit of time to just get this deal done. I went, okay. So anyway, an hour passed. Didn't hear nothing. Another hour. And Bruce's agent, Bruce's brother was my agent at the time.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I've gone to him and I've said, listen, we need to know. But we can't be disrespectful to Celtic. We need to get there. We said we were going to be there an hour ago. We're not. Yeah. You know, you don't want to give them anything to think something's going on here. I need a decision. Yeah. So anyway, he rang Bruce and said, listen, you know, where are we? We need to know. And Bruce has gone, listen, I've got a couple of issues here. I don't think I'm going to last long. Sign for Celtic. Right. So, and I've gone, okay, fair enough. Thanks. And he said, listen, I'm gutted. I want you to come. Not long after the season starts, the second in the league, he gets the sack. Yeah. Because of, I think there was a situation with Ian Wright going on in the background. Anyway, he goes. I go and sign for Celtic. And I loved it. Celtic was...
He didn't do too bad though. He brought to Arsene Wenger in, didn't he?
He did, yeah. So maybe there was a method in the madness there.
Yeah. But yeah, Celtic, yeah.
And I found it difficult at Celtic, to be honest, at the start. My missus had 2 miscarriages early on. Yeah. So obviously I had that in the background. She wasn't really settling. It was affecting in terms of me on the pitch, you know, and it wasn't really going the way I wanted it. Yeah. And then Tommy Burns brought me in, and he was a brilliant fella, an absolute diamond of a guy. First and foremost, I always judge people of what they're like as a person. Yeah. Tommy was just everything you'd want in a
always come across in interviews just like a nice fella, but obviously
he was just a class act. Yeah. You know, probably the only thing I think that probably hindered them was that fact he was too much of a fan. Yeah. You know, from a manager, and he wanted it too much, if there's such a thing. And he pulled me in one day and said, listen, what's up? Explained to him what had gone on. He went, okay. Said, leave it with me. So anyway, the following day, Mandy's rang me from work, knock on the door. Tommy's wife. Okay. Like, come on, we're going shopping. You know, next minute. So anyway, following week, the club had paid for the mum to come up, fly up, spend a week there with her. So, you know, you can see like all the little things that he's thinking of trying to help. Yeah. And started to get a bit easier. Started to get a little bit more comfortable. Started obviously getting over the miscarriages. We'd gone for a test to see if there was a problem in terms of why it was happening. There wasn't. Next minute, a couple of months later, pregnant again. Obviously, then a bit more checks.
How did you deal with that? Because obviously everyone looks at the, and I'm not saying they shouldn't look at the woman, because obviously that's, you know, your wife has got to go through all that thing anyway for herself. But how did it affect you as a? Because I don't think men get asked how it affects them, and some might go, I was all right with it, but really it's a trauma, because you got to see your wife upset.
I think that was the biggest thing, is that as players, we're in our own bubble, and sometimes you can forget, because we go to training, we do our stuff, we come home. You know, so you're missing a lot of that, and it's only when you come home and then you find like your wife's crying. Did you not have any children at this time? Sorry. Did you not have any children at this time? We'd had one. So we'd had our first, in terms of Heather. Then this has happened. So then it was obviously that this was happening. And obviously your wife's at home, on her own. Yeah, you're right. You go off to work, as you should do, and you're with all the lads. So there's the band, you're getting contact with others. Of course. Where she's at home in by herself. Place, you know, and so having to deal with it, and then... So that must have affected you then, anyway. In terms of, I think, with a woman, no matter what they're going through, whether it's that miscarriage or whether it's anything, they need to talk. You know, and when I'm not there for a large part of that, you then feel isolated. You know, they're speaking to someone on the end of a phone who's 200 miles away. You know, they're not there, and I think that's where really, probably now when I look back, probably didn't understand enough of that. And it was only once I'd spoken to Tommy about it, whereas he then started to put things into place to try and help Mandy. And it's little things, I think, with like everybody, that are huge things. You know, so going for a coffee, you think is, it's just going for a coffee, but it's getting out. It's then her dressing up to go for a coffee. Of course, you know, it's little things feeling like good about yourself. You know, and it's sometimes you don't realise until it's happened to you, or you're speaking to someone who it's happened to think, oh, yeah, I've never thought about it that way. It's like me with cancer. It's exactly the same. You know, you don't relate to something, or when you're speaking to someone who's had it, you don't necessarily think about it too much until it's really happened to you. By it, of course. You know, and I think that was what she was like. Mandy was unbelievable with my cancer. You know, the club was unbelievable. I can't speak highly enough of how they dealt with not just me but my family in terms of that, because no one can prepare you for that. You know, no matter who you are, how strong you are, no one can compare you for the big C. Not at all. Because ultimately, let's be honest, cancer more often than not means one thing: it's death. It does, you know, whereas now we're starting to make strides, you know, through it. We're starting to, you know, in terms of when I found out mine, I was lucky. And I mean, so lucky. I felt a discomfort in one of my testicles, but then it'd go. So I thought of like genuinely like a man. That's okay. It's just pain. It's gone now. No. And then the more, like, as the weeks went by, and probably a few months, when I did feel it, I felt like a little indentation on it, and I didn't follow it up. Typical man, everything will be all right. It's nothing. Whether that was me being scared, didn't want to talk about it, hoping it would be nothing. That decision was taken out of my hands when we played Rangers in the Scottish Cup final in 98. I got chosen for a random drug test, And obviously we just lost 1-0. I think it was Rod Wallace who scored late on. Fuming, coming off, obviously disappointed with the result, but not knowing what the next result was going to produce. So I'd gone into the drug testing room, then trying to get the fluids down me, because obviously you've just played the game. More often than not, you're dehydrated. You can't take a wee, so you're getting the fluids in you as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
As you can imagine, sometimes it can take 20 minutes, sometimes it can take 3 hours. It all depends on how your fluids come through your body. Anyway, I had the drug test, done a couple of your samples, urine into the bottles, go away, back in with the team.
Yeah.
Then 4 weeks later, playing golf in time. We've finished the season.
Yeah.
Just being away, come back, just downtime. Still a few more weeks before we go back, and I'm playing golf with a fellow friend, Mark Seagraves, who used to play with at Bolton. So anyway, the club doctors rang me and said, "Ziggy, it's just the doc. I'm gonna to take this call." I didn't even know why. I didn't even think it was going to be about the drug test. I just thought he was ringing. I just didn't put 2 and 2 together. So anyway, I was took the phone call, and it was named Jack Mulhern, lovely fella. Stubbsy, how are you? I said, yeah. Hiya, Jack, how are you? He said, yeah. He said, most of the points. He said, how are you? I said, I'm good. Why? He said, well, I'm just ringing. He said, your drug test, it's come back positive. And I've gone straight away, drugs? No, I don't take drugs. I said, Jack, that's impossible. You know me, I'm not taking anything. He went, no. I said, I know that. He said, how have you been feeling? I said, I feel great. Yeah, he went, the reason why it's come back positive, he says, you've been producing a hormone, which normally when it's found in men, it's linked to cancer. And I've gone, you're kidding me. And I was just like, didn't know what to say. He went, that's why I've said, how have you been feeling? And I went, honestly, Jack, I said, I feel as fit as what I've ever been. And that's when I twigged. I said, well, he said, what about you? He said, yeah, have you been feeling any pains or anything in any way, testicles, anything? I said, well, I have had a little pain. He said, okay. He says, no problem. He said, we need to get you up, do some checks. So that was the Friday. And he said, listen, he said, spend the weekend with it. He said, I'll speak with the club. He says, and we'll look to get you up on Monday. So anyway, the club sent a chauffeur car to pick me up on the Monday. Took me back up to Glasgow with Mandy. Went straight in, ultrasounds, and the specialist has just turned the screen on and he's gone, yeah, Alan, this is what we're looking for. He said, look, there's the right testicle, and it was like white, which he said, that's healthy.
That's healthy. Yeah.
He said, and there's the right one. And as you look at it, it was like a little half moon on the bottom end of it, which was black. The rest of it was white.
Yeah.
He said, that's the cancer. I went, okay. I said, what's the next step? He went, well, he said, I'll relay this now back to the specialist. He said, and then we'll take it from there. Straight from there, I went to see the specialist. So I was gone to see the specialist, just chatting away, and he said, right. He said, we'll need to just do some checks. He said, just to put your mind at ease. He said, as long as we've caught this early, he said, there's a 95% chance that you'll come through this unscathed. And I'm like, okay, great. Because straight away, and naively, I'm thinking, well, am I going to play football again? Not thinking about the bigger picture. So anyway, he's gone, right, this will be what happened. He said, basically, we'll show you. He said, we'll cut you like a hernia.
Yeah.
He said, and we'll remove the testicle, take a biopsy, check your lymph nodes, do some biopsies from them, and then we'll have a better picture. So anyway, went in, basically had the operation, more or less literally the same procedure as a hernia operation. I was back playing within 4 weeks. Or back training with the rest of the lads. Come back, went to see the specialist. Good news, it was lying dormant, just sitting there. I hadn't spread anywhere. There was nothing in your lymph nodes really positive. We're not going to do any more treatment.
That's it.
So, as far as I'm saying, great. He said, just go and live your life normal. So then, it's fine. Went for my checkup, blood test. This was a month later. Blood test, ultrasound, scan. All come back fine. Anyway, carried on this procedure. Then it went to 3 months. And then got to 18 months down the line. Went for normal. So I'm starting to feel a lot more confident now going to them. Everything's, out the woods here now. Everyone was very relaxed about it. Went for my normal scan and left without thinking, because I used to, whenever they had the scan, you'd leave and then they'd call you back or message you saying everything's great, no problem, see you in X amount of time. Anyway, so I had the scan and got a phone call 6:30 at night, Alan. Something showed up on the scan. Can't believe it. I've gone, what do you mean? He said, we'll need to do more checks. Just first said, but it looks like there's a tumour at the base of your spine. So I've gone, okay. So we said, we need to bring you in as soon as to get to the bottom of it. So anyway, came in, went in to see the specialist with Mandy on the following day, and they'd spoken with another couple of doctors in America, seeing which way the best way to go about this was. So I'm sitting there with him and he's gone, right, this is what we're going to say. I'm surprised. He said, because we thought you were out the woods. He said it's sitting at the base of your spine. He says, we're gonna this is the procedure. We're gonna give you 4 courses of chemotherapy. And then as we're going through it, we'll scan you to see whether it's doing a number of things. He said, what will happen? He said, it'll either obliterate it. He said, it'll reduce it in size, or it won't do anything. He said, so they're the 3 options. So anyway, had my first course of chemotherapy and pretty intense. It's very different now, the treatments in terms of how they do it. I went in and I was in for 3 days. So for 24 hours, constant on the drip. I'd have like an hour of chemo, 2 hours of saline solution. Yeah. Keep repeating it. So every time the bag finished, alarm would go off. So like you're not sleeping it. Yeah. And then if it's not your alarm going off, it's someone else's alarm going off. And then I was in Glasgow at the time, and I had this lad kept walking past with his little saline solution on like the trolleys, walking up and down. Kept looking in all the time. And the nurse was coming to me at one point and said, "Down, listen, see the lad who's walking up and down?" He said, "He's a mad Celtic fan. Would you have a word with him? He's struggling a bit at the moment with his illness." I said, "Yeah." So I was reading Lance Armstrong book at the time.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'd finished it. So anyway, the nurse had brought him in and he's gone, "Oh, Alan, you're my hero, blah, blah, blah." I said, "I'm really struggling." So he had a different cancer to me. Yeah. So he sat down, he's chatting away. He said, "I can't believe I'm sitting with you and talking to you." And anyway, lovely fella. Yeah. And said, "Yeah, you have this book. I've read it. I'll sign it to you." And he was like over the moon. Yeah. Like couldn't believe it. So like we had like an hour chatting away, and he's gone back and he's gone like, "I promise you, I won't pest you no more." I said, "Listen, come in whenever you want." Yeah. And then it's like, "Alan, do not say that to him because he'll be in every 5 minutes." Yeah. So anyway, he's gone away. And I've finished me 3 days, which was a really intense chemotherapy. They wanted to really hit it and blast it and see where we go. So anyway, done that, gone home. And I wasn't going back till the following month to get the next course. So anyway, first week, felt okay, wasn't having any nausea, wasn't being sick, which is the symptoms, felt good. Second week, as I'm sleeping, next minute I'm waking up in the morning, I could start to feel my hair coming out and stuff like that. So I thought, rather than wait for it to have clumps and stuff, I thought, right, the hair's coming off. So I shaved it off. Luckily, lucky enough for me, like, because it can take everything. So my eyebrows stayed, my eyelashes stayed. So I was okay with the rest.
Skinhead's all right. No eyebrows.
Right. No eyebrows, not a great look. No. So anyway, did that, and then I went to watch the Old Firm game with Tommy Johnson at a sports health club just down the road. Watching the game, next minute, starts to feel really cold. And I said, Tommy, I said, is it me or is it? He said, are you cold? He went, no, I said, it's roasting in there. I said, I'm shivering. I said, you need to take me home.
Yeah.
So anyway, Tommy took me back home. Next minute, I was shivering. So next, Mandy's rang the hospital. Said, right, okay, we'll send an ambulance. Said, you've probably picked up a bug because the chemotherapy has wiped your immune system.
Yeah.
You've probably caught a small bug, which wouldn't mean anything. But so anyway, took me straight in, put me on the solution again, just flushed it out, antibiotics. Anyway, done that. Went in then, and I was about to go in for me second course of it. Said, right, we're going to slightly change it. Said, obviously that last one was very aggressive. Yeah. We'll do it over 5 days this time and see whether that's better.
Yeah.
So anyway, did that. First day in there, was fine, going through the same thing again. And I said to the nurse, I said, where's the guy?
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't remember his name.
Yeah.
And she's gone, oh, well, there's bad news. He passed away last week. And that was the first really bit of it, which really dawned on me to think, shit, this is serious.
Yeah.
The first time, because it happened so quick, I didn't really have time to think about it because I was back playing and training to think it was cancer. But the second time was where it really hit home to think. Anyway, so carried on my treatment. Got to the end of the second treatment, the chemotherapy, and I felt good. I wasn't feeling any symptoms what people would feel in terms of, nausea, sick, and all that type of stuff. The only thing that was happening to me was my hair fell out on my legs. So they said, right, really happy with the way the second one's gone. We're going to give you the scan. We want to see how it's progressing.
Yeah.
Done the scan. And it had reduced in size. So it was the size of a pea initially.
Okay.
And then it had reduced, if anything, in size. Not massively, but it had reduced. Said, listen, we're happy. We're going to go in and operate. So anyway, they cut me open all the way from just underneath your breastbone all the way down below your belly button to get to it. So they had to remove everything out the way because it was sitting at the base of my spine. So anyway, this is where it starts to get a little bit hairy. So initially, as I've gone into the operation, I'm leaning over the table. Nurse is holding my hands. The doctor's trying to give me an epidural for pain relief. So it was supposed to go in probably, just below halfway up your back in your spine.
Yeah.
So anyway, obviously, as you can imagine, an epidural, quite a big needle. So the doctor's trying to get it in, and I'm leaning over, and I can feel this needle going in, but it's not going in. He said, Alan, listen, I'm having a problem. He said, your muscles are too strong. He said, I can't get it in. He said, and we're pushing for time here. I need to get you into the operating theatre. So he said, I'm going to have to go a bit higher. So anyway, he's gone higher, and he's probably gone from your chest around about that. Yeah. So anyway, gone in. Nurse is saying, listen, it's okay, just relax. Gone in. Anyway, straight into theatre. 8 hours later, I'm out. Operations being a success. Sign your waiver form that everyone has to do. Obviously, so done that. Come out, got the silver foiler on me, and I'm virtually crying with pain. So the epidural had only worked from the chest up and not from where I'd been opened up. So I had no pain relief whatsoever. So the nurses, and I'm still all over the place with the anaesthetic, in and out of consciousness. And so they're trying to give me painkillers, paracetamol, morphine. I can only have the morphine shot every so many minutes. Yeah. So I'm pressing it like it's bloody going to happen all the time, and it's not happening. So anyway, a couple of hours later, nothing, still not really kicking in. And the nurse has gone, Alan, listen, I'm really, really sorry. It will kick in at some point. Just, you're going to have to bear with it. Anyway, it did. Got to about 3 hours. And this is probably the scariest thing I've ever felt in my life. My body went numb. I was paralysed because of getting the painkillers, and it's gone in, and it's all happened. So basically my body, I'd felt nothing. So I'm lying there basically like a corpse The only thing that was literally moving on my body was my eyes.
Oh,
And I'm standing there looking, and I'm trying to talk. Obviously, couldn't hardly talk because of the numbness. And I said, am I going to walk again? To the nurse, and she's like, so she's trying to say, Alan, listen, it's perfectly normal. It will come back, but you're just gonna. And I was chatting away, and I just what I said to her, I said, could I have died on the operating theatre type of thing?
Of course, yeah.
And she said, oh yeah, 100%, yeah. And that was where it really kicked in, how serious, it was. The best feeling I've ever had, and this is in terms of winning cups, leagues, was the following morning when I started to get pins and needles in one of my toes, whereas the feeling was starting to come back. And that was the best feeling I've ever had, because I thought I was going to be paralysed no matter what. It was just horrible. And then my mates came in, which they shouldn't have really. I was in intensive care, so my mates had come and they'd asked the nurse who was with me, they were both amazing, who was looking after me one day during the night, saying, can we come in? And she said, well, it really shouldn't, but in you go, I'll let you have half an hour.
Just give them a boost.
Do not do anything stupid because you can't move. You literally the pain there. And anyway, so they come in and they've obviously seen me and wired up to everything, and I didn't probably look great.
No,
you
probably look better.
Yeah. And they've gone. I think that's when it put the shit up them. They've looked at me and gone, "Oh, God Almighty," and they're saying, "Oh, how's everything? You look great," and that type of talk. Yeah. So anyway, they're there, and a few of my mates and stuff, they're laughing, they're trying to crack jokes, thinking they're trying to help. If anything, it was the complete opposite, because as they're trying to make me laugh, I'm shaking, and that's shaking the stitches, and it's it pains even worse. So anyway, the nurses come in and said, right, I'm really sorry, but we need to give him time, we need to rest. So the nurse has gone back out. Oh, I had a little telly, the old VHS there on the things. So anyway, one of my mates, before he's left, has only put a video inside it, and it was a porno. So he's put the video in, press play and then they've got off. I'm obviously standing there, can't do nothing, can't even get anywhere near it, and the nurses come in, and she's obviously heard the sound and everything, what's going on, laughing her head off at it, and pressed it, but they've all got off, laughing their heads off. So that was literally how it all happened. I was in hospital probably for about another 2 weeks. Doctors come round, said to me, Alan, listen, you are a one-off as far as we're concerned. He said, we've never treated a sports person this way. So we don't know. He said, normally, if this is a normal person, he says, we're probably looking at 6 weeks, 2 months that they're in here for. He said, once you can do this, as in terms of go to the toilet, unaided, touch your toes, he says, we're happy for you to go and pass it over to your physio. He says, but obviously 2 weeks, we're thinking, hell, but I just wanted to get out. I wanted to get out. I wanted to get home. Or when I wanted to start back, even though I was nowhere near it. Anyway, so I left. They were happy for me to leave. And probably about 6 weeks later, I started then to do me rehab, and it was all about just strengthening my core up again. On the outside, the wound had healed, but on the inside, the stitches, they were still nowhere there. Anyway, 3 months, I was probably out with that, and I made my debut, ironically, at Hibs away. Martin O'Neill was the manager, and got to the stage in the second half where I think we were winning the game, and Martin's put me on. And the whole of the ground stood up and gave me a standing ovation. And it was like, God Almighty, keep yourself together. One of them type of moments, a lump in my throat. Come on. And it couldn't have gone any better. I scored in the game. And it was just wow, compared to where I thought at one point I was never going to kick a ball again. And then 3 months down the line, you're back doing what you've always obviously dreamt of, and it was surreal. To say a roller coaster ride was a bit of an understatement, but I don't look upon myself as doing what no other person would have done. I wasn't a special case. I was, I had my operation on the NHS. I didn't want a private room anywhere. It was just, I just did and went about it as normal as I could. I didn't want any special treatment. Doctors, as far as I'm concerned, and a lot of people who've probably been in a similar situation, we're lucky enough that we've got the best doctors in the world probably here. Our NHS back then was probably better than what in position than what it is now.
Yeah.
We're so lucky. But without that drug test, I've got to be honest that I might have been one of them stupid men who are not willing to speak about something, not go to doctors because we think it's too macho to go and get our bollocks checked, or talk about it to someone. Whereas now it's taken for something like that for me to talk as if like I couldn't care less about it. If someone wants to talk about it. I actually had believe it or not, I went to an award thing at Goals, and I was giving awards out, and it was a group of fellas, loads there, all come from different companies who put things, and I had one fella who was trying to be a bit of a smart ass, and he went, is it right about the song they sing about one ball? I went, it is, yeah. I said, that one ball's bigger than your two balls, though. Because it's the way it is, and it didn't bother me. Whereas years ago, that would have bothered me. That
would have got you.
And I probably would have stood up and had a go at him. But it's my experience outweighs a smart ass comment. I got a bit of it even from fans. Which is normal. You get it. You get it from the terrace. We still hear it from in this day and age. Whether if it's not something like that, it's racism or whatever. You still get the idiot who doesn't think before they speak. So yeah, I had I look back on it and I was lucky. People say, well, how can you say you were lucky? I was lucky because I was in a bubble. Yeah, professional footballers bubble where they get treated the best. Yeah, they get looked after the best. They're always getting tested, whether it's blood, whether it's health checks. They get the best of treatment. Yeah, I was lucky. It's the people who are not as privileged to be in them positions that I feel for, because I'm still here talking about it because I was diagnosed early. Yeah, people who are not as fortunate don't get diagnosed early. You hear about it now. People still waiting for treatment 5 months after they've been diagnosed because of what's going on. How we can't find money for the NHS is crazy. Because we are so reliant on it as a country. My daughter's a nurse. Yeah. She's a Parkinson's nurse now. Unbelievable. Did I ever think she was going to do like that? Not in the wildest dreams. But she makes me as proud as anything. The fact that I can the job that she comes in and does, and she talks about things. It's crazy. What we do. So yeah, I'm one lucky guy.
Incredible way to look at it. I can't imagine. Obviously, what you go through when you realise that's like you say, maybe the first. I mean, having to wait the weekend when you think, it might be. I mean, what does that do to you the first time? Because obviously, for me, I could just think, well, test me now. If you told me that, test me right now, because I couldn't sit for 48 hours and wait, and yet you've had that on a couple of occasions. I think
with that one, it was good for me because I needed to go home and tell all the family. So the weekend gave me that time to go.
But what in your own mental space, though? Or are you just...
Everything was a bit of a bit of a blur. Yeah. But I always... What helped me the most was that I didn't want to be by myself. Yeah. I wanted to be around people, my friends, who would keep me my mind from thinking, because there's no doubt. Did I think I was going to die? 100%. You know, but I didn't want to go to them dark places. I wanted to not be positive as much as I possibly could. I wanted to be the one that was thinking this is not going to beat me.
Yeah.
Even though some people, in fact, a lot of people, don't have that option. You know, I had a cancer that if you want to get any cancer, this is the one you want to get.
Yeah.
You know, so if someone said to me right now, walking out that door, you've got 95% of overcoming this, I'd take that, snap their hands off and run.
Absolutely, yeah.
And they wouldn't catch me.
Yeah.
You know, so from that point of view, that's why I mean, I was lucky.
And we're talking nearly, 25 years ago, aren't
you know,
we,
people always say to me, how can you look upon yourself as lucky? I think, well, think about it. Think about it. You know,
we all know people
don't get the options that I get. And I think what happens is, in my case, because my case is very different. People say to me, like, people will listen to my story, and people who are going through the same cancer, they will look and take some confidence from it. But it's every cancer is very different because it's an individual thing. It's how that individual deals with it. What I say and how I dealt with it doesn't mean it's going to help someone else, because they might have a completely different journey. If it does, fantastic. With my cancer, I felt as if I had to be strong for the people around you, because they become the weak ones. You're the one who's dealing with it, whereas the people around me become weak because they don't know what to say. They don't know what to do. You know, they're looking upon you. They're looking at you for strength, and that's the way I looked at it. And I wanted to make sure that they weren't seeing anything in me feeling sorry for myself about it. I wanted to tackle it head on and see where it went. Thankfully,
you did.
I got lucky. I got lucky.
It is incredible. My mum, leukemia, and doesn't get over. You never get over leukemia. You just live with it. And she used to say she's been unbelievable, and the NHS unbelievable. It should be the one thing in this country that we all bat for, everybody, because we need it, and without it, who knows where we'd be. But I'm delighted you sat here today.
Me too.
Through this. On to Celtic. I mean, you know, you stopped Rangers winning 10 in a row. Yeah. You were part of that side.
I was,
so, you know, that's a big thing.
It was a brilliant season. We were, I've got no shame of saying this, Rangers were better than us.
Really? Yeah.
You know, at that time, Rangers had a better squad of players by far. Gaza, Laudrups, all these type of players. They had a proper team. They'd won the season before, even though we'd run them close. You know, we just drew too many games. Didn't lose many, but we just drew too many. And then we went into this season as underdogs, and a huge amount of pressure. Anyone who doesn't really know Scottish football, 10 in a row is as big as it comes. You know, ask any Celtic fan and Rangers fan about 10 in a row. Never been done.
No.
You know, and we had Rangers probably in the same position as what Celtic were a couple of years ago when Steven Gerrard stopped Celtic from doing it. Yeah. Probably then. I'd say the only difference was that I thought Celtic were in a mess a few years ago when Steven won the title. Whereas when we stopped 10 in a row, we had an unbelievable team spirit amongst ourselves. And we knew Rangers were better than us. But what we did, we had a strength of togetherness as a group of players. We knew that we couldn't match them in terms of ability, but what we could do was in terms of work rate, team spirit, and that was our best approach. So what we did, we started off by, we didn't start the season great, so we were playing catch up a little bit with them. And then what we did, we said, listen, we need to bond together. We need to get out. So anyway, every Tuesday we were out. So we used to train. We used to all go for lunch in an Italian restaurant called Il Pavone, which was class. And then we said, if anyone doesn't want to stay, by all means, you can go home.
Yeah.
Everyone else, stay and we're going to have a few drinks. So anyway, started off, a lot of the British lads stayed and we'd have a sesh. A lot of the foreign lads would eat and go home.
Yeah.
Which was fine. Following week, same. We'd have one foreign lad stay. Following week, we'd have another one stay. And before you know, we got to a stage where everyone stayed. And all it did was just bring us all together. And this was like Henrik Larsson, we had like Reggie Blinker. It was great. So, and Morten Vikhorst, we had some Mark Reaper, Danish internationals, some proper
Sooner
lads.
or later you dance with the Reaper.
Yeah. And then what happens, results started picking up, started getting closer to Rangers. And then there was a moment, and everyone always looks back at this moment. We were playing Rangers at home and we were losing 1-0, getting towards the end of 90 minutes, and we'd played well. You know, we had played well, didn't deserve to lose the game whatsoever. Yeah. But that was probably a trend of how the games did go. Right. Whereas we were probably a better team on the day, but Rangers had that class and that quality of know how to win. Anyway, this game we'd equalised. Balls got played across, and I've jumped to the back post above Goffey, and headed it in the back in the far corner. 1-1. Euphoria, as you can imagine. Celtic Park just went off the scale. It was bouncing, and we're walking off that pitch as if we'd won the game. Rangers are walking off the pitch as if they'd lost the game. Yeah, but they hadn't. We'd drawn it, but that was the shift. Yeah, I think that was the moment and all where we started to believe we could do it. Yeah, and it was neck and neck all the way through, and then got to I think the second to last game or last game of the season. I'm sure it was Partick Thistle at home. Scored early on. Henrik, who else?
What a player. Yeah.
And then Harold Brackback, who had been a big signer for us, but in and out the team. Yeah. And I'd found it hard at times to score goals. What he was brought in for, really quick. He got the old decisive goal. We'd done it, and it was just party time. And I think that was probably the most season that I've ever played under that amount of pressure. It was horrible. Yeah, it wasn't nice. Yeah, it was disgusting, if I'm being honest. We'd won the league, and it wasn't joy. It was relief. Yeah, because of the pressure that and what it meant to the fans. You could feel it on the fans. Obviously, the fans, there was people crying in the stadium just by relief. The fact that we'd stopped 10 in a row, never ever forgotten. And even to this day, it's still spoken about. Amazing scenes, and we partied that night and that weekend. In fact, and we more or less, to be honest, got keys to the city. Yeah, that weekend.
That's how big it was.
That's how big it was, and it was. And then the following year, Rangers, I think, come back and won the league, and then that was when Martin came in. Then and Martin was brilliant manager. Yeah.
Excitable.
Oh, just a bit. But he had a. When you talk about backroom staffs and a management team, he had it. Martin was very different. He was intense, articulate, a thinker. Whereas his assistant, Steve Walford, was really good, but dead relaxed, typical Cockney,
Ex-West Ham,
Ex-West Ham, yeah. Great fella. And then you had John Robertson, Notts Forest winger, class.
What a player.
And he was still class in training. Couldn't really move, but used to stand on the wing on a Friday in our Friday game among some of the staff, and he was still quality. Yeah, you could see that he's being a brilliant player.
Scored the win in the European Cup final.
Yeah, that's it. And the blend of them three very different characters worked. Yeah, it worked. Martin was probably the best speaker in terms of getting a team motivated that had come across. Yeah. Was very warm and tear in terms of before the game, come and sit next to you, how's the family, everything okay, make you day relaxed. And then he'd have his pre-match routine where he'd walk around the treatment table in the middle of and he'd be thinking about or going through his routine in terms of what he was going to say. And then before you were about to go out, he'd just go bang and deliver it. When you were ready to fight, whatever was in front of you. He was brilliant. His first year was there. We'd done the treble, and that's when the major decision for me came. Because he'd offered me a 2-year deal to sign and to stay. I was obviously torn in terms of what Celtic had done for me with the cancer and the way they dealt with it. That was pulling me because I didn't want to let them down because they'd been so good. But obviously Everton was the other one with Walter, and I'd come down and I was very open with Martin and said, listen, and he knew that Everton wanted to speak with me. Martin was, what are you thinking? And I explained to him everything, and he said, listen, go and speak with Everton. He said, if it's not right for you, he said, I want you to come back and this contract's going to be waiting for you.
Okay.
He said, I still want you. He said, but I know. He said, with what you've gone through, he said, you might never have another opportunity this to come around again. And you might relive that. He said, you might regret that. He said, so go and speak to them. He said, so anyway, I went down and spoke with Walter, met him in his house in Manchester, and it was just too big of a lure not to come. And the first thing I did was get on the phone to Martin and say, listen, I've spoken with Walter, and he said, don't speak no more. He says, I'm delighted for you. And really, I'm made up for you. And he said, wish me all the best. And he said, you know where I am. He said, you're more than welcome here anytime you want. And that's the measure of Martin. That was what he was like. On the flip side of that, before I'd left, I was wanting to sign a new deal. Yeah. And Martin, say 3 months before that, had gone, listen, remember, we're going to need to speak about your contract. And this typifies Martin for me. And anyway, he says that, so I'm thinking, okay, I'm getting a deal, just a matter of time. Heard nothing. Following week, nothing. Following week, nothing. Following week. Anyway, 6 weeks down the line, oh, Stubbsy, forgot to mention you, that contract's been sitting on my desk for the last 3 weeks. Come and see me. That was Martin. Yeah. And even like some players would think, oh, you're joking, he's been waiting that, but that was just the way he is. Yeah. And he was a brilliant manager. Brilliant manager. I love Bruce in terms of, because that was the beginning. Yeah. I love David Moyes in terms of what he did at Everton in terms of the job. Martin was...
He was the one for you.
He was the biggest influence, for me. And I loved working under David Moyes. He was the same. He was intense, different type of intense with Martin. David was a young manager when he came, and he had a lot to prove, and he wanted to succeed at the top level, and he certainly did. Attention to detail was different class with well, I'd still say David, but it should be Gaffer. And as a defensive coach, he was right up there with the best. He knew how to set a team up and be hard to beat. It was the next bits that was uncomfortable for him, and he knew that, and he would admit that. And I think we started to see little bits of that at Everton as the years went by, and we started then to become a team that was consistently becoming a European team, season upon season. And we always thought, let the shackles off. But, it just shows you, when you're so good at something, sometimes you want to change when you know what you're already good at. So I was lucky. I had some really good managers.
The moving to Everton, what was that like for you then? Obviously, that had been a dream, I guess, from when you walked out of Belfield at 13. You want to come back and prove them wrong, and all that.
There was a lot of satisfaction to it, and I don't know about proving people wrong, because at the end of the day, it's all about opinions.
Yeah, of course.
You know, in terms of football, whichever level you're at, it's all about an opinion, and it doesn't necessarily mean that opinion is right. But I was just always hoping one day, you know, that it would happen. It wasn't.
There's been lots of speculation about you coming back even when you were at Bolton, and then certainly.
Well, Joe Royle tried to get me when I was there, and I didn't know anything about it. Joe had tried to get me when I was at Bolton, and he'd spoken to Toddy, because they had a really good relationship. And Joe told me after I'd retired, you know, about it. He said, "You do know I tried to get you one day when I was at." I went, "No, not at all." So it was never ever made aware of it. Yeah. And they had an agreement, you know, where Colin Todd said to Joe, "Listen, please do not let this get back, you know, because otherwise
it'd unsettle you."
Yeah, you know, and I think they had a respect amongst each other where it didn't. There was a few. I nearly went to Aston Villa when I was at Celtic, when I was at the very beginning, when Mandy had gone through the miscarriages, was unsettled. John Gregory, they'd offered 5 million for me, and it was Fergus McCann at the time who was the chairman who transformed the club. He bought it when it was about to go bust, and he said no. He said it's 5.5 million. That's what we see, Alan, on the business sheet. And by the time they factored in wages and everything like that, he said it was too expensive for them. That was happening at one point, you know. So there's been a few nearlies, you know. Liverpool, Roy Evans tried to get me, you know, when he was there.
That'd have been a tough one for you.
That would have been. It's easy to say now. I don't know whether I could have done it. I really don't know. Yeah. In fact, I do know. To be honest, I do know. But Roy always says to me when I see him, you know, he says, "If I would have got you, I'm convinced that we would have won the title that year." I think they went for Neil Ruddock in the end. But Roy always says. But yeah, so there's been a few. Yeah. There's been a few nearlies, but I don't regret anything.
You did get back in. You got the blue shirt on.
I did.
Under Walter, and then and obviously it didn't go great under Walter. It was a difficult time. Yeah, but then when David Moyes come in, we really did kick on then, didn't we?
We did. Walter was a great fella. He probably I'd look at it, right manager, wrong time. In terms of it, you know, we come from Rangers, whereas he'd been able to spend and get whatever he wanted. Where he's come to Everton, and it was difficult, and he found it difficult. You know, the players had a huge amount of respect for Walter. You know, he was a great person, ruthless. Wouldn't ever want to get on the wrong side of him because he was a hard man. Yeah. And then obviously Walter left, and then David came in, and he had this young, energetic manager who would not let anything stand in his way to get where he wanted to go. You know, David was a bit of a bull in the china shop early on. You know, he was.
Did it need that though at that time?
Yeah, I think it did.
Because I remember you scoring a couple of cracking free kicks. Actually, Stoke away in the FA Cup. I remember being at Bolton, and you scored a cracking one at Bolton for us. I think it's 2-3 that day. But like we'd had that with Ginola in and Gaza and people like that. Just because when Walter first come in, before you'd gone to, but we got like Olivier Dacour and Marco Materazzi and John Collins, like obviously great Celtic players. Barn being on, we had a cracking little team, but then obviously like Materazzi left after a year, Ollie Dacour left after a year, the money had dried up, and he almost was throwing the dice one more time, but you could tell. He was on. I think he knew himself near the end that
they were very left field signings, weren't they?
Well, that was it.
Totally
against Lindelof from nowhere. It was like, you know, things like that. Yeah. And then there was this fella called Wayne Rooney, who everyone knew about. I remember we played Ipswich at home. I was working at Everton at the time. I remember we played Ipswich at home, and he tried to get Rooney registered, and I don't know whether he was too young, but they wouldn't allow that because he wanted him on the bench. I think he was still only, he just turned 16 or something. And for whatever reason, he wasn't allowed to do it, and we lost our own to Ipswich. I think Matt Holland scored. And you could tell he was struggling, and obviously David was the bright new thing, wasn't he, coming through?
He was. Yeah, he'd done well at Preston without getting the step. They'd been in and around the playoffs, and he'd come, and David wanted to set his stall out straight away. In terms of, this is me. You cross me, and you're finished. And I think that was just the way he was. That was just, he wanted to draw a line. And because we had some big characters in the dressing room at the time, Duncan, myself. When I say big characters, ones who would speak up for the players.
Honestly, give your opinion.
Yeah. Lee Carsley. So we had some good lads. Kevin Campbell. And then David's come in, and this is it's my way or. And David started off that way, and we were all, obviously towed the line type of thing. He got some results, but as time went on, I think David started to realise, and he would say some things where we would turn around and say, no, we disagree. You've got it. And he was head on all the time, and it's that way. And I think it come where David started to realise that he was dealing with completely different personalities than what he'd dealt with before. Yeah. And in order to get what he wanted, he had to work with them rather than against them, and take them on. Yeah. And I think that was the first probably sign of him starting to understand in terms of his management. Yeah. Adapting rather than right, okay then, off you go.
My way or the highway. Yeah.
You've got to work with them,
especially at like Premier League level, elite players.
And that's where he got better and better and better. As organisation was as good as what I'd seen. Spending hours on the training pitch, 30 plus myself at the time, 32, 33. Same with Davey Weir, a few other players. The back four, we were out all the time on the afternoon time, going through back four stuff, heading, positioning. This is where I want you to be. Ball's on the opposite side. Where should you be? Which I won't admit at the time, I'm thinking, I'm 33 and I'm doing heading practice here. But did it make me better? 100% it did. And then it's like everything. Until you start getting results, sometimes it's hard for players to start believing. Yeah, of course. And once, obviously, that practice is there and you start to realise and you start to think, yeah, I can see what he's doing here. You're getting results and you're getting the 1-0 wins, and then you go on to the next one, you get another 1-0 win, and and then you buy into it. And I think that's where David started then to, put a stamp on the team. We were, probably weren't there in terms of, because he never had a pre-season with us. It was only the following season. And the first few years we were done well, down the bottom, done well. And then after that, I think it was where we started to really then gradually improve our league positions, where we were starting to then consistently hover around top 8, top 7, top 6. Then obviously 2004, 3-4 was Champions League qualification. No one in wildest dreams expected us or thought we could do it. But it was belief. You get to Christmas time, you're still there. You come through some more results, you're still there. January, you're starting to believe. You're proving people wrong all the time.
What was mad about that season, 4-5, was we obviously started.
4-5, sorry.
Yeah, we started with... Well, 3-4 was weird, because obviously come in, we won enough games, we stayed up great. Yeah. The next season we finished 7th, but we were flying all season, but we lost all our strikers. Yeah. Duncan was out, Wayne was out, Kevin Campbell was out, and we just hit the buffers towards the end. And the next season, we were a bit up and down, but even that season, on the page it says 17th, but we were safe with about 6 games to go. I think we lost the last 5 and just dropped. 03-04, obviously Wayne left for Manchester United, and it was all doom and gloom. Tim Cahill coming, we get beaten the first game of the season, And everyone's we're in trouble. We're in trouble. And I remember going to Palace the week later and we won 3-1 and Gravison, one of his better, had a great game. Marcus Bent scored. And by the time we got to Christmas, we were on 40 points. We were second at Christmas. And then we went to Spurs and got done 5-2. What's that winger called? He had a stormer that day. Got 2. Anyway, Edie, was it? Darren Edie, something like that. I think he might have got 2 that day. But you're right. We only won 5 games from Boxing Day till May. Because the second half of it, we had loads of draws. But, I mean, as players, 17th on the books to 4th. I mean, what was massively different? I know Tim Cahill coming, he was great, and Arteta coming in, he was great. But we did lose Gravison, who the first half of the season was incredible. And I don't know whether Real Madrid thought they were getting Carsley or they just thought the same. They kept seeing videos of this baldy fella doing everything. Thought it was him, even though it was
great job they done that, wasn't it?
He's done well, Tommy, there, hasn't he? And he's not doing too bad now in Vegas. But as players, obviously you're starting, your back, Wayne's gone, and there's a lot of noise about that. And there was a takeover by a Russian billionaire, which never happens in Gravitz and all of that stuff. But as you're going through, when is it that you start going, tell you what, we've got a chance here for top 4? I know you're still in there, but when is you as a player, and you being the Evertonian, you might have been thinking, oh no, what'll happen with us? But when was it that you started?
I'd say it was probably...
Don't tell me it was Newcastle when Cahill scored.
I think it was probably once we've come through Christmas and January. Maybe halfway through January. Because everything then seems to happen quickly from January onwards.
Right, okay,
I think it was then where we'd really think, we've got a chance here. And we started to reflect on the results that we were getting. We were so hard to beat. We got ourselves in the lead more often than not, 1-0. We would win the game. Because people found it difficult to break us down. Carr's done a great job, in front of us. Back 4, we knew exactly what our roles were. And then we had goals going forward without being brilliant. We were at times methodical. In terms of doing what we knew. We didn't try to be something what we weren't. We knew exactly what our roles were. We knew what our jobs were, and we didn't try and be something different.
And Nigel Martin was quite good.
And Nigel was rather okay in goal. And he was a great lad. Great talker, brilliant goalkeeper. And it always helps that you've got a bit of quality behind you.
What's it like playing with someone like that behind you?
It just gives you an extra bit of confidence that, if you do have a lapse in concentration, if you do make a mistake, that you've got someone really good behind you.
Is he the best goalie you played in front of?
I'd say so. Yeah. Tim was great.
Yeah.
Obviously, and I loved Tim because he was a brilliant guy.
Yeah.
But in terms of ability, Nigel was better.
He's the best goalie I've seen play for Everton since Neville Southall.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, Nev for me was the best.
No, Neville's the best ever, to be honest. But...
I have to agree. I like a bit of a love-in with Nev.
Yeah.
In terms of what he was. Exceptional.
Great fella as well.
Yeah. But Nigel, after that, no doubt about it.
That season, you're right, we ground a lot of results, brilliant. But Villa away, I think that was the day that certainly I thought, because we didn't do great at Villa Park, no matter how good we were. Apart from 87 when Sheedy scored the win, and we won the league. But we hadn't a great record. But that day we went and played a different. Arteta and Osman were fantastic, and obviously you lot at the back. We beat them 3-1. Could have been 8. We were superb.
We were.
And I think that day, Crystal Palace at home 4-0 was great as well. But that Villa one, I think, was the one where I was like,
"Here we go,
we're in business here. We are in business." I think that was about March time.
Yeah, and I think because you've got that. I think sometimes in all, when games are close, you don't necessarily see the ability of your Artetas and your Osmans because they're doing that much work. Sometimes without the ball, But then when you do get yourself into the lead, it's when they suddenly start to stand on the ball and starting to dictate games.
Yeah,
and I think that's what happened more is that we were starting to dictate games more then. And we were because we had players who could control it. We didn't really before that over the previous season. We didn't have players who could put the foot in the ball and slow the game down when we needed to. Ours was always about second balls.
Yeah.
Get the ball up, second balls, get the balls in wide areas, get the balls into in the box.
Yeah.
Whereas I think that's where it talks about David Moyes evolving as a coach. That next step, defensively and setting the team up, we knew he was very good.
Yeah.
But then people will say, well, to go to that next level, then can he then trust himself to be a little bit more on the offensive side? You know, and that was always probably a argument that people would always speak about David. If he was then to make the next, could he trust himself to be a bit more expressive, you know, with his teams?
I think he still gets it now at West Ham.
He will do.
They're still, you know, even though he's done a great job there, he's won a trophy and he's been in Europe.
You still heard him. Exactly. Sometimes it's like everything. You can't do no right from no wrong. You know, but I think that's just the world we live in now. You know, it's not enough. But that season was obviously was special all the way through until the end for me. You know,
well, I was going to say the Newcastle game was amazing. David Rhea scored, and Cahill killed it, and we sort of knew Liverpool were at Arsenal the next day, and we knew that. And I know that night you all got together.
We did.
You know, when you went to Arsenal a few days later, were you all still feeling the effects of getting together on a Sunday night, maybe, because that Arsenal game was grim, wasn't it?
It was awful. We definitely were, you know, because we met on that Sunday.
Yeah.
And
was it David Moyes who got everyone together?
Yeah, David. He rang myself, and he said, right, let's get the lads together. Let's get them all in at the Albert Dock. I think it was the Blue Bar. It was we were in, and we met at 7:00. We all had to be there, so we all obviously got ourselves down. We'd all been. Some of us had been watching the game anyway in the afternoon time.
Yeah.
So anyway, we got ourselves down. Then got in there, and the gaffer had organised champagne on arrival for us, and he stood up and said a few words. Listen, thanks very much. We've had a brilliant season. This is your reward, you know, and give a really good speech. Go and enjoy yourself. So that was obviously the Sunday. Yeah. So we obviously did enjoy ourselves.
As you would.
Yeah, and then, you know, I think the Monday, me and Dunk was still on it, and a couple of others. And we were off on the Monday.
Yeah.
Tuesday, we were meeting back up to travel down. So anyway, he's named the team. And I've looked at Duncan. He's looked back at me and gone, you know, because we knew we weren't going to play. He'd already told us, you know, what the team was going to be. So we were obviously on the bench. And obviously after having a couple of days on the pop, we were probably thankful of it.
Yeah.
Done our job, you know, job done. Anyway, started obviously the game and we knew how the game went, 1-0, 2-0, 3-0. And me and Duncan looking at each other going, oh, it's going to be a long night this. And I've like jokingly gone to Dunk, you're going to go on here. And like, as you can imagine, what Dunk said in response to that, and he's gone, I'm not going on here. No chance. So anyway, 4-0. The gaffer's saying, I'm going, Dunk, I'm get warmed up. And Dunk's like, looked at the gaffer and gone, you're having a laugh. Seriously? And like, obviously you can imagine David,
not
who has he's gone, get yourself, come warmed up. So anyway, Dunk's like getting himself ready and he's not happy. Walk down the touchline and he's doing his, well, you could call it his warm up, if you could call it that. And the next minute, 5-0, and it's obviously going pear shaped. And like, the next minute, he's like, Duncan's come back from his warm up, sat down. Anyway, the gaffer's saying, and I'm going, you're going on here, Dunk, because I knew there was never a chance that I wasn't going to go on, because obviously he wanted to try and get some goals and it wasn't really me. So I'm like, we're sitting each other looking at each other and I've gone, Dunk, you're going on. And he's gone, fuck off. I'm not going on. Like, you're going on. You know, seriously, get ready, you're going on. So when he kept looking down the gaffer, and me and Duncan are sliding down our chairs like that so he couldn't see us.
Get out the way.
Anyway, Dunk, you're going on, come on, get yourself ready. So anyway, he's gone on. Coming after the game, and the gaffer's like fuming. You could see like he was ready to blow the top.
Yeah.
And he's gone, it's a fucking disgrace. That's embarrassing. And like, obviously we knew it
Yeah.
was, but on the Sunday, his words were to us, and this is where we had to laugh. And he's gone, don't worry about results. You've done your job. Not interested in the Arsenal result. We've done what we've set out to achieve against all the odds. We've qualified for the Champions League. Brilliant. Anyway, and he's gone, it's an embarrassment. Looks terrible on me. Looks terrible on you. It's a disgrace for this football club. And he's looking around, and I knew he was going to look at me because obviously, and he's gone, anyone got anything to say? And I'm looking down, and I'm going, don't want to look up because if I look up, he's going to. And anyway, and he's gone, Stubbsy, you got anything to say? And I've gone, no, Gaffer, obviously, it's not the result that we all wanted, but, you did say, on Sunday, go and enjoy yourselves, not interested in the Arsenal. And you went, well, that was fucking Sunday. This is Tuesday now. And it's changed. And I'm like, And so anyway, you just had to go with it and take whatever was coming. But yeah, we'd achieved what we'd set out against all the odds that season, and it was. But then at the end of it, I was in negotiations. My contract was up, and the gaffers, pulled us, quickly after the last game and says, like, come on, let's get it sorted. And I went, well, I want a 2-year contract. It wasn't about money. 100%, it was not about money. It was just about the length of the contract. And he's going, well, we're not really looking to change the direction of the club. We're not really looking to offer anyone over 30 now, longer than a year. It's just something that we want to do. I went, well, I said, I want a 2-year contract. I said, otherwise, I won't be signing. And he's going, come on, let's sort it out. And I said, Gaffer, listen, I feel as if I've been a big part of this group this year. Like what we've done, I've been a part of it. And I feel as if I warrant a 2-year contract. And he's going, no, I'm not disagreeing. He says, but, it's what the club. And anyway, so we beg to differ on that one. He said, well, let's speak about it. We need to draw the close to it and say like in 3 weeks' time. So I said, Gaffer, it's not going to change. What's what? He said, well, let's let the dust settle. So anyway, 3 weeks later, I'm in the pictures with my missus, and I forget what we're watching. And it's the Gaffer on the call. I said to him, he said, I'm going to have to go out and take this. So anyway, I'm walking out thinking, right, come on, let's say 2-year deal. Yeah, it's done. So anyway, he goes, right, Stubbsy, made your decision. Come on, let's sort it. We need to get this wrapped up. I said, Gaffer, unless you're offering me a 2-year deal, then the answer's the same as what I said to you 3 weeks ago. Yeah. And he went, no, come on, it is the club's going in a different direction, blah, blah. I said, Gaffer, then, okay, so we've really got nothing to say. I said, I didn't want it to end like this or be like this. I said, but if you're telling me it's not a 2-year contract, then I'm not signing. So like, he was like, come on, don't be stupid. Let's put these things aside. I said, no. I said, I'm sticking me to my laurels. I'm sticking to my word. And he went, okay. He said, that's the case then. We're going to have to go our own way. So anyway, we did. And realistically, looking back, we both lost. Yeah, realistically. Absolutely. And David will admit that. I will admit it. I went to Sunderland and it wasn't great. Wasn't there. Great club, some lovely people there, but just didn't work out. I got a phone call in November time from Jim Lumsden saying, listen, let's get you back home, type of thing. Because obviously Everton didn't start the season off well. And I was, spoken to Jimmy, and we'd kept in touch because we got on well. And then he said, would you be willing to speak with the gaffer? I said, yeah, of course. I says, silly question. So anyway, we met just before Christmas time at Tickle Trout in Preston, just off the motorway. And we went and had a coffee and said, listen, we're both going to, talk about it. He said, but I don't want this to become, when you come back about this, it's water under the bridge and we move on. I said, yeah, no problem at all. So anyway, I signed for the rest of that season. And then, I was still there for a couple of years after that. And it's probably one thing when I look back, and it was probably myself and the gaffer probably being stubborn. And in the end, no one really won out of it. And it's sometimes one of them things where, would I do it differently? I'm not sure, because I think we all have egos, and we all think we're right all the time. Thankfully for me, it was another opportunity for me to come back, because I never really wanted to leave. It was just that we couldn't agree on the length of the contract. More often than not, these are always about money and not agreeing money, and that it wasn't the issue. It was just that I wanted the year, and I wanted 2 years, and David wanted to offer me one. So
it is frustrating, because you've done all that work. We got in the Champions League, and you weren't there to play in it. And who knows, it might have gone differently had you been there. You never say, but you missed that opportunity.
I did miss it. I did miss it. I'd like to think that, tongue in cheek, the fact that David brought me back was an admission that he was wrong.
Well, listen, no one from the outside, how he comes across, and listen,
he'll never say that.
I've spoken. No, I still my ambition to get him on here. And I am definitely.
I'm sure he will come on it.
Definitely gonna thingy him, but. Speaking to other Sylvan Distance, peeing at him, and it told me exactly really what he's like. The fact that you were back 4 months later, I think, it's like show me I'm saying sorry without me actually saying sorry, kind of thing, And the fact you were ready to come back, I think, shows both of you were just like, let's forget that sort of happened.
Yeah,
and you did. We started that season terribly, but I remember you come back in and. We just got back on it, and we finished the season decently, and then carried on with you in the side for, like you say, another.
I think it was Arsenal. I think when I come back,
but
it came on.
Beattie.
Yeah,
Matteo Ferrari playing.
So it's sometimes I look back and you think, could it have been handled better? But the only thing about it, handling better was going to change. It was the length of the contract, which is it's one of them things, and
it's done, and you did get back, and that was the good thing. You come back, and you were part of it again, and we did well, because we were a good side at that time. It's overlooked. You left on deadline day in 2008. For Derby County. Was that? What was that? Were you getting to? Did you know yourself? It's sort of like.
Well, I was starting to. Be out the team
injuries
more than
stuff.
And my calf was giving me a little bit of a problem. But then Derby came in for me, and they offered me an 18-month contract, and I was up at the end of that season anyway. With Everton, and I knew I wasn't going to get a new deal. And I went and spoke with the gaffer, and we had a really good relationship then. And he just said to me, I said, "What do you think?" And he said, "Listen, Stubbs, obviously we know that, I think, obviously Joseph Yobo was there at the time, and Jolien Lescott, and and they were the Jags, and they were the future." And he said, and to be fair, Derby had offered me a good deal as well to go. And he said, if I was you, he says, snap the hands off. And it was helping David, because there was no pressure from me then in terms of playing. Or being on a bench, and it was one less situation for him. And then I went, and unfortunately, Derby was great. Paul Jewell was the manager at the time. Great setup, really good stadium, fantastic training grounds. They lacked a little bit of quality and depth, and I didn't really play that much. My knee was playing up. And to be fair, they had the chief executive there at the time was, what was his name? Great. One of the best I'd worked with. And his name was, dearie me. It'll come back to me in a minute. And I was in and out of the team, and then I said to Paul, listen, this is not good for you, this. You're waiting for me to get fit. You need me on the pitch to try and help you. I'm thinking about calling it a day.
Right.
This was probably in the, November time, around about that, I think it was. And he said, no, he said, listen, you've got to contact, just see whether it settles down. And I said, Paul, I said, listen, I get that, I says, but I don't just want to sit here and take the money. That's not me. I want to contribute. If I'm going to do something, I want to contribute to something. I said, so, and he went, no, he said, honestly, he said, just give it a bit of time. And anyway, I went back and I spoke to obviously to my missus, I spoke to a couple of close friends in football and said, listen, I'm thinking about calling it a day. And anyway, I went back and spoke to them and said, listen, I'm going to retire. And they were unbelievable about it.
Really?
They were really, really good. Proper pro about it.
Yeah.
And that was me not wanting to take the mick, really, and just sit there for another 18 months and just be happy to, I wanted to do it the right way, if there is such a right thing as the right way.
Yeah.
And I left to, to sort my contract out, and I left and I retired. And then it was like probably a week or two had passed by, and then I went into Everton to get a shirt signed for the I think it must have been family or a friend, and the gaffer was there, and he'd heard that I was in there, and he'd come looking for me, and he said, listen, what are you up to? I said, well, I've just come in to get a shirt signed. It says, but then I'm going to have a cup of coffee with a couple of the guys upstairs. He went, do me a favour. He said, just hang around. He said, if you've got time. He said, I'm just going to my press conference now. He said, but I wouldn't mind having a chat. So anyway, he comes out 2 hours later. and I'm waiting there. He said, hey, come on in, you come. So anyway, he said, what's your thoughts? What are you thinking about doing? I said, well, I want to coach, and I'd like to go into management at some point. And he said, come and coach here. Come and give Taffa a hand in the reserves, and you can lean on him and stuff like that. So anyway, so the Monday morning, I was back at Everton. It happened that quick. And then I started doing some coaching with the 21s. And then after a few months, Taft's gone to me, and obviously must have come from the gaffer. Taft was starting to do a bit more work with the first team in terms of analysis and just being out there watching and stuff. And he left me to go and do the 21s, and he once the first team had finished, he could then come over and go and just like chat away and speak about things. And I was bouncing stuff off Taft then, in terms of coaching, and then he'd say, like, little tips, think about this, think about that. And he was brilliant, really, really good with me. I'd like to think that, I'd done okay with the 21s, started to get a lot of players out. That time was the likes of, to be fair, Ross was coming into the 21s, even though he was still eligible to play in the 18s. He was too good for that. Luke Garbutt's, Shane Duffy's, Jack Rodwell's, Skodran Mustafi, who we brought in. We had Eric Dyer there at the time. So we had Jose Baxter, James Wallace. So we had a good group of players. I think it was that year, even though it affected me massively, we had 8 of them out on loan at one point. Is it a coincidence or not? Them players all went on and made a career for themselves. From a selfish point of view, would have been very easy for me to keep them, but that would have been the wrong thing to do, because it's not about me. It was about me trying to help them get a career. If it was at Everton, fantastic, but if not, then somewhere else. And I personally think that is your role as a under 21 manager.
Definitely.
It's not about, you obviously you have to help them. They have to win, they have to lose, they have to know how to deal with winning, how to deal with losing, but ultimately they have to deal with pressure as well.
Definitely.
And I think since then, I actually don't think at one time Everton have still had that amount of players out. I did a presentation to Roberto Martinez on under 21 football in terms of the void between 18s and first team, and this 21s was bit of a lost cause because they're in the middle of nothing.
Yeah.
They're in no man's land.
Yeah.
And Roberto was like, yeah, great that. And then, but we've got everything. We're covering all that now, which he wasn't.
No.
You know, he was trying to give it the old Roberto bluffing it. And I went in with Alan Irvine at the time, and Alan said, Stubbsy, that was great that, because it was about investment into the 21s.
Yeah.
You know, we were probably one of the smaller ones in terms of investments at the time,
right,
in the 21s, and where the rest of the Premier League was going in terms of Chelsea's, the investment that they were putting in, United's, Liverpool's, and all them, in terms of the amount of players out on loan at any one time. Yeah. So it was like that type of, this is where we need to go.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, great, thanks very much for that. It was just Kev Reeves at the time, who was the head of the recruitment. Kev, I'm sure Kev's already down the line with something along them lines, putting it into place, which he wasn't. And then he used that to then take it to the board and try and sell that. And that's when Everton started to, you know, be a bit more professional, you know, whereas the 21s didn't have a full-time physio, didn't have a full-time kit man, you know, sports science, whereas they all have now, you know. Yeah. There's a team underneath the team now, and there's a team underneath that team. You know, but it was about making or getting that pro or as professional as we possibly could. And I always felt with Roberto, it was a bit like he paid you lip service.
Yeah.
You know, so you'd go in and you'd chat to him, and he'd ask your opinion. But then as soon as you walked the door, it was like, yeah, well, we know better. Yeah, you know, with his group of...
They come across like that as the manager, to be fair. Yeah. You'd done well at the 21s, and then Hibernian come calling for you, and
it was a bit of a...
went.
Yeah, I think I got to the stage where I wanted then to now test myself, because I love managing, I love coaching, but then this role came about, so I'd applied for it, and to be fair, Leanne Dempster and George Craig, they met me, and they'd done a lot of background checks into what I was doing at Everton, the 21s, producing players, and they wanted this model type of thing implemented with Hibs. Okay. She'd come in and she'd just sacked Terry Butcher, who they'd taken on. She said it wasn't right for what they wanted. And then they brought me in and basically had a blank canvas. You know, when I went into the club, we had one head of recruitment who was more or less a chief scout, stroke goalkeeping coach, which I don't know how that works, but we had one physio, and I think we had about 5 players. So we had a lot. We were playing catch up. Leanne had brought in a head of recruitment, Graham Matthew, at the time, who I started to work closely with, the type of players we wanted to bring in, and we done well. We hit it off. We first season we were playing catch up. We had Rangers in the league. We had Heart in the league. Obviously ourselves, probably one of the biggest, strongest championships there's ever been. Yeah. So we were always up against it. We did okay. But it was the second season, really, where we started to probably progress a bit. We'd done well in the cups. We'd managed to get a few players in. We were challenging for promotion. We got ourselves to the League Cup final as a championship team. Got ourselves to the Scottish Cup final.
So that second season, 2015, did you have a feeling at the start that were you moving in the right direction towards the end of the last one? So there was momentum to go into that.
Yeah, we were, because I think
2 cup finals.
Yeah, we were chasing. The first season was always about stability.
Yeah.
Trying to get a team in place and then looking to progress. The process with myself and George and Leanne was always just about trying to get the fans back on board. There was a real discontent with the board and the fans, and there was no connection between the two.
No.
The fans didn't feel as if they were getting listened to.
Right.
So that first season, we did a lot of trying to join the fans, trying to listen to the fans.
Yeah.
We invited the fans in to show what we were looking to try and do in terms of a way forward.
Yeah.
So, so we brought them in, fans groups, and we did presentations to them. This is what we're looking to implement.
Right.
This is the style. What we've got a plan.
Yeah.
And they were on board. They really bought into what we were doing. We obviously bought John McGinn from St Mirren, which was a great signing for us. And he was a big difference, a massive difference. A massive difference for us. And that second season, we had Rangers still in it because Hearts were the team that went up.
Yeah.
So we were up against it because even though we thought on paper we had a team that was similar to Rangers, they might have had a little bit more quality, but we felt as if we could give them a run for the money.
Yeah.
Even though their budget was
way beyond,
dwarfed what we had, and it was nip and tuck. And then Rangers realistically pulled away in the end. But we got to obviously the League Cup final and we lost that to Ross County, whereas we should never have done. We were so better on the day. We just missed a few chances, and we made 2 individual errors that led to goals.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we were the better team.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that tongue in cheek. We were
just the better side.
And then we got to the playoffs and we got beat by Falkirk in the playoffs. We should never have. We played at home and we absolutely battered them at home. We were 2-1 up and it was going on 3-1, 4-1. If you were ever to look back and see the penalty decision that we never got given, it's probably one of the most blatant handballs you've ever seen in your life. The referee chose not to give it, and we had that much momentum at the time. It was going 3-1, going more.
Yeah.
Anyway, carried on the game at home, 2-1, and Falkirk launched the ball into the box, injury time, scored from a 2-2, which obviously, from our point of view, being so dominant, felt like a defeat, even though it wasn't. We got to the away leg, Falkirk. We took the 1-0 lead, in control of the game. Same that Falkirk equalised, and then it looked like it was going to extra time, and the lads hit a shot from the edge of the box. Literally seconds to go, scored. No time to recover. So we lost in the playoff, which was a huge blow. That was our main aim. So
Nice,
literally, ultimately, and I have to take responsibility, we'd failed what we wanted to do. We had the Scottish Cup final the following week. So we were, the Monday morning, had to pick the players up, went in and spoke to them and said, listen, we've still got an enormous game to play for, type of thing. I understand that you'll be disappointed. We haven't achieved what ultimately we'd set out to do, our main target, but you've got a chance to go down in history. We hadn't won the Scottish Cup in 114 years. There was this stigma around the club in terms of a little bit of a laugh and joke. Is this going to be the year? When you went in press conferences, there was a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek comment about it all the time. And it was always a question I was always asked whenever you started the Scottish Cup run. Is this going to be the year, Alan? I went, well, someone's going to do it.
Yeah, of course.
At some point, they're going to do it.
Yeah.
Whether it's me or not, I don't know. But I'm going to say, I'm hoping it's going to be me. And anyway, so this carried on, and we got there. And so we got to the final, and we knew we could beat Rangers. We had the belief amongst ourselves. That season, we were, I think, level in terms of games won against each other.
Yeah.
So, it was pretty nip and tuck. And I had a decision to make on the day whether one of our midfield players, a lad called Dylan Migiok, who was important for us, was gonna be fit. He came off the week before in the Falkirk game, and we weren't sure whether he was going to be fit. And I sat him down the day of the game. I said, Dylan, and I looked him in the eye. I said, "You've got to be honest with me here. Can you play 90 minutes?" And if he would have said, "Well, I can give you 60," he wouldn't have started.
No.
And he said, "Yeah, I think I can." I went, "Okay." I said, "Listen, you're not letting me down. You're letting your teammates down if you're not giving me the right answer here." And he was adamant, and that was a big boost for us before the game. And we'd gone to the game, and you come out, and it was to be honest, if I was a neutral watching the game, it was a great final to watch.
Nice, yeah.
It had a bit of everything.
Yeah.
3-2. It was entertaining. It was end to end. There was some good goals in there, and we couldn't have started the game any better. We'd gone 1-0 up. Anthony Stokes scored a really good goal, cutting down the left, and he cut in from the byline, and he's put it into the far corner. And Anthony Stokes obviously was an ex-Celtic player, hated Rangers, couldn't have got any better for him. Rangers got themselves back in the game. Then they go 2-1 up, and I sense that a lot of the Rangers players then thought, that's it.
It was over.
Job done. We're in the lead now. We're not going to lose this. And we got stronger as a result of that. I could sense it in the players. We were still in the game. We were still on the front foot. And I actually didn't realise, like sometimes you can get lost in the game and you lose sense of time.
Nice.
And we'd got a corner, and pressure was building. And I'd made a couple of substitutions. We changed formation, and I brought Liam Henderson on. He was really good at dead balls for us, and he probably could have easily started.
Nice, yeah.
Gone across, and he's played a whip ball, and we'd worked on set pieces all week because we felt as if it was an area that we could get at Rangers.
Yeah.
They conceded goals, and the near post area was where we wanted to target. They had like James Tavernier, who's their captain there now. But we felt as if he wasn't great in terms of dealing with that near post. So anyway, we looked at targeted that area every week anyway. Whipped the ball in, and we'd scored. We managed to score from it. 2-2, and I knew sometimes it's weird as a player. You sometimes get the feeling. You wake up on a Saturday and you know you're going to win that day.
Yeah.
At that moment, I knew we were going to go on and win the game. I just sensed it. We were getting stronger. We were starting to overrun Rangers, and the next minute get a corner again, and same, whips the ball in. This time it just misses the front post area and goes into the middle of the goal, and David Gray jumps and glances a ball into the roof of the net, 3-2, and it was just bedlam. It literally was bedlam. The scenes were crazy. And it's one of them where it's at that stage of the game where you can't recover.
Yeah.
It's just so late in the game. The fans are going mad. And then everything just seemed to then go into slow motion. So we're seeing the game out. Rangers are pushing forwards for an equaliser. We're withholding their late push. And everything just seemed to slow right down then. And I can remember seeing Liam Henderson run up, go to the referee and say, "How long?" And I could remember it's as if like I could read his lips. I'm saying, "It's over. I'm going to blow." So as he said that, Liam Henderson's, as the game's still going on, Liam Henderson's run as if he's running to celebrate. And the referee still hadn't blown yet. And the next minute, he blows his whistle. And it's just like, my assistant comes and jumps on my shoulders. Everyone's running mad. And then the fans start to spill onto the pitch and really tempers your celebrations at the end. It's just euphoria, a relief. There wasn't really any animosity to it. It was just as if 114 years of wait had just gone, and fans just wanted to get on the pitch and celebrate. Obviously, that had an impact, and I got pulled away quickly then because I had to go and speak with the chairman, the chief executive, the match day commander, in terms of trying to deal. We had to get all the players off the pitch. So they were just all still celebrating inside where I was in there with these meetings. Then I was doing obviously some radio and press and it's not press, TV. And then we found out that we weren't going to be able to do a lap of honour. They were still getting the pitch cleared, still getting the fans in there. Rangers fans, then some of them spilled onto the pitch, and it was like obviously confrontation without it getting too nasty. The police managed to get order. You know, the whole mounted police were on the pitch, pushing Rangers fans back. Then there was a ring of horses and police and stewards that had managed to get all the Hibs fans back in. And then they started singing, obviously, Sunshine and Leith, and it was just, to this day, it's just one of them moments. It's an amazing football song. Anyway, if you've never listened to it, I think it's had over 1 million views now on
I have
on
watched
YouTube.
it,
And it's like one of them hairs on the back of your neck, stand-up moments. You know,
what's that like as a manager? You're stood there, you just won that, and they're singing that. Is it? Well, I mean, is it hard to put into words?
It is hard, but my sense of satisfaction was for the players and the staff, because I'd been lucky enough to sample being there as a player, not as a manager. But whereas I think as a manager, it's all about your players and your staff. You know, and I, even though it was a really, really proud moment for me, my euphoria and my sense of satisfaction was seeing their joy. You know, and seeing like the kit man and his wife, who were lifelong Hibs fans, who'd waited all their life to see something like this. You know, they had the stigma of being a club that was a nearly club. So whenever they got to finals, everyone always thought of Hibs as in they've Hibsed it, meaning they've bottled it. You know, so to see that, you know, and I think it's a really cheap comment when people who don't know the type of people that you're working with day in and day out, then to say, did they bottle it, and question their character when they don't even know the individual, is, for me, it beggars belief. You know, and I had so how can you call or the integrity of these players when you don't know them as individuals, and you're trying to say they bottled it? You know, that's sport. Sport is winning and losers. You know, it doesn't mean that someone's bottled it because they've lost. So for me to see that there after the disappointment they'd gone through the week before, when ultimately we have to look at it as we failed to achieve what we wanted, and then to see the flip side of that for the work that they'd done the whole of the season and trying to achieve. We were a championship club, and we were the only team in Scotland at one point that could do the treble. You know, and I think that tells you in terms of how close they came, because ultimately we won one cup, but I have no problem saying we failed in terms of our main target, in terms of winning the league, and we failed in the League Cup because we lost. You know, but we
still went down in history. And you went down in history, though. You can put it on. You're right, and players, it's great, but for you, you're the manager that ended the whole 114-year wait.
And I must admit, there is a little bit of me that I'm quite happy for that record to go a little bit longer before someone else does it.
I think you
You know, I don't want someone to wait. I don't want the Hibs fans to wait another 114 years.
But it is nice. But that's what you did. That's what you achieved.
It is coming up towards 8 years this year. You know, so but a brilliant club, really, in terms of Leanne Dempster and George Craig. they were fantastic with me, you know, in terms of my first job. And I left at the end of that because I just questioned or wondered. I knew we'd win the league the following season. We were by far the strongest team. I left Neil Lennon a great team. But Neil went and won it. So fair play to him. I wasn't sure whether I could or we could top what we'd done.
Oh, okay.
You know,
even winning the league,
yeah, because it wouldn't have been as good as the Scottish Cup final because of the importance of it. 114 years. Everyone knew that we were realistically going to win the league the following season because we were by far. There was no Hearts, there was no Rangers. No. We were the biggest team. So you know we were in a very, very strong position. And I left. I jumped. Well, I jumped then, which would have been completely the wrong word. Rotherham then approached. I got win, and
your record, the Hibs 100 games, 58% win rate.
I did. We done well.
Really good, you know, for manager of the month.
Yeah, we did really well.
So why Rotherham then?
Because I thought it was the championship. I thought it was a chance for me to go in and do well there, and then use that as another stepping stone to maybe then go on again.
Of course, yeah.
But unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. It was a really difficult job, tough job. You know, smallest budget, training facilities were really poor. In fact, when I say really poor, I mean really poor. And I found that a chairman difficult to work with as well. So, you know, I went into and I should have done more research beforehand. The no recruitment process, you know, so you're going in there late, and they never had listed targets. They never had any plans in place in terms of players they wanted to sign. And it was left to me, realistically, to try and pull in favours from agents in terms of what players have you got. And you were behind the black ball straight away.
Yeah.
You know, you only had so long for the season to start. You had to take gambles, and more often than not, they were free transfers. But the better free transfers had already been snapped up. So you ended up having to you tried to sign players in a pool that the majority of them have already been said no to by someone else. You know, and there's a reason for that. Yeah, of course. So, you know, it turned out to be tough, and it was no coincidence, you know, that I left there. I was actually relieved when I did leave because, you know, going in there, it was a difficult job to go in every morning.
Could you have done any more when you look back?
I think there's always a chance where you could look back and say, could I have done more? Yes. But I think the damage was already done because of the players that you were. You know, I have to look, and I have to take responsibility because ultimately it's me who's there. You know, but there was a lot of mitigating circumstances for it as well. You know, one example was we tried to sign Lee Gregory, and I got a phone call from the chairman, who was at the golf club on a Friday afternoon. And I was on the way home from training, and he was like, "Alan, Lee Gregory, do you want to sign him?" And he was as good as what we could afford, and he was probably ideal for what we wanted to do. I went, "Yeah, if you can do it, great." He said, "Okay, I'm going to do it." And 2 minutes later, I got a phone call from the chief executive. "Alan, we can't do this. This could financially ruin the club." And I'm like, "I've got no problem. If you can do it, do it. If you can't, you can't. It's as simple as that."
Yeah.
But I've had the chairman ring me up and say he's going to do it. So anyway, he said, "Okay, I'll speak to you tomorrow." So anyway, gone in the following day, not knowing anything from it, and he's gone. So the chief executive, Paul's gone to me, "Alan, I'm really sorry about yesterday." He said the chairman was in the golf club, had a few wines with his friends, and was giving it the big I am. And he said, "But we know we can't do it." And that's what you were dealing with.
Right, okay, yeah.
You know, And it, it was just a matter of time before it went the way it was, and ultimately it ended in me losing my job. And then the next one was I was out of it and taking time to reflect and what I could have done better. Sometimes there's not much you can do.
Yeah, no, that was the question. Yeah.
And then I took the St Mirren job because I just wanted to get back into football, and it was the same. It was wrong. I made some mistakes in terms of signings, because you have when you're at clubs like that, you have to take gambles. And basically what had happened is that when they wanted to try and change the playing side of it, they wanted to bring in younger players, and then suddenly when you're trying to do that, and people take a step back, it's difficult. I had a couple of players there who probably were not what I would want in a dressing room. That made it difficult. Okay. Them type of characters, when sometimes reality's starting to hit them in the face in terms of their end of the careers are coming, but they're not willing to accept it. But they are a voice in the dressing room. And it probably, if I had to look back, I probably should have managed that situation more. But sometimes you have to make a decision, and then you've got to try and get results in order for you to justify that decision. But unfortunately, the people above were too close with the players before I got there. Right. So
you were already losing back, basically. Yeah. What's next then for Alan Stubbs?
I'm certainly not going back into management.
Okay.
I've had enough, because I did love coaching. But I just think football's very different now.
Right.
Okay. I am coaching I'm heading up. I'm more or less like a director of football in a private school.
Okay.
So I'm overseeing all that for them, which I'm really enjoying.
Yeah.
I've got 3 coaches working with me who are carrying out like one-to-ones. We're taking care of all the teams in there, and I'm really enjoying it, because I've always enjoyed working with younger children. Not to say younger children, but young players.
Yeah.
Seeing them grow, seeing them improve. Would I be enticed back into something? I'm not too sure at first team level. Maybe under that. I'm not sure, or I don't know. But at this moment in time, I'm very happy doing what I'm doing. What else? No. So
that's
first team wise, no.
You're done with that.
I think so. Yeah. I think that ship sailed.
A little bit of punditry on BBC Radio.
I enjoy that. Yeah, I do enjoy it. More so because I'm talking about a team that I've grew up and I love. Everton. No matter what happens, never leaves. Will never leave you. I'm very fortunate that I've done something that a lot of people dream about. And I was one of them when I was younger, and I had an opportunity, and I was very fortunate enough to be able to fulfill a dream and an ambition. And not many people are fortunate enough to be able to look back and say that. So for me, I will always be grateful and thankful for that, for being able to have an opportunity to pull on that blue jersey, because it's so special. It really is. It's to not just the jersey as well, but to actually walk down that tunnel and captain your team as well. I've got to be honest, I can't put into words what it was, because it's sometimes words are not enough. So I enjoy going to watch them. I am a fan now. I'm back to, it's gone full circle. I started off as a fan, Then I become a player. Then I had an opportunity to fulfill a dream, and now I'm back being a fan. You know, so the one thing I don't do in terms of I'm not a fan who criticises, you know, or is ranting and slaughtering players.
Yeah.
It's hard enough as it is, you know, and it's been difficult for watching Everton as a fan over the last few years. You know, it has been because of what's been going on. What seeing your club realistically go backwards when they should be going forwards has been a tough watch, and should never have been allowed to, you know, be in a position that we are now. Yeah. It's sad, but I'm just hoping that once we get this points fiasco drama resolved, whichever way it is, I just want to move on from it. Yeah. You know, the uncertainty is the bit that kills you. You know, do I think we've done wrong? Yes, we've done something wrong. You know, we have to hold our hands up because we have gone about things in a way that we all know has been wrong. But have we been harshly punished because of what we've done? 100%. You know, do I think the points deduction is unjust? 100%. How we've been given this points deduction, you know, beggars belief, and how they've come to this scenario, you know. So I'm hoping that whether it's today, whether it's next week, you know, the outcome is favourable in our way, and then we can try and move on as a club. And if it is favourable, then the second charge is quashed straight away, and then we as a club can try and focus on ourselves and try and move forward the best we can, and then we'll move on to the next saga then of new owners.
And that's a whole new story.
Yeah.
Alan, thank you very much. Thank you for giving your time up. Thank you for being honest and open and talking about obviously a hugely difficult period in your life. I'm sure it'll help a lot of people who've experienced it, people who know people who have experienced it and seen the positive outcome that you are and you have been and you are living and can talk so openly and articulately about it. So thank you very much. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. I hopefully the words that I've spoken do help someone. You know, if it helps one person, then great. It's been worthwhile. I'm sure it will. But you know, I'm happy to speak to anybody if they're going through a tough time. You know, you can get in touch with me any way, social media, anything. I'm quite happy to speak to anybody. I can ramble on to anybody.
No, it's been a pleasure. So thank you very much.
Thank you.